All right, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. This is Dr. David Patrick Carey with Church of the Eternal Logos, and tonight we're going to be talking about the war with Iran from an eschatological perspective. So, obviously, many parties involved here are viewing this in theological terms. The Jews want to rebuild the third temple. They want to reestablish their sacrifices. They want to sacrifice the red heifers and the purification rituals and bring back their Messiah. The Shia Islam, the Twelvers, are also under the belief right now that their Mahdi is going to come and restore a sort of global Islamic kingdom, and that this is part of the great Satan that they're fighting in regards to Israel and the United States. And then, of course, the people voting in the United States that have put us in the position where the U.S. is somehow involved between two eschatological visions between Jews and Shia Muslims are the Christian Zionists. And they basically are all on board with the Jewish Zionists, except for the idea that this is just a way to catalyze the second coming of Christ. Obviously, Jews have disregarded Christ being their Messiah, which is why the Jewish messiahs are Antichrist. But that little caveat seems to go beyond many Christian Zionists. And so they're hoping for the rapture of the invisible church, which, if you've been following online, many Christian Zionists believe that the rapture is getting ready to happen soon. Because for Christian Zionism, Middle Eastern wars are signs of, in a way, providence that they're moving towards the rapture, that they're not going to have to face the tribulation. And so we're going to discuss a little bit about these three groups. Then I'm going to talk to you about what's actually going on, update you in regards to the theological language that is coming out of Israel and here in America, as we talked about in the last update, emergency alert update, which has now been taken down by YouTube. So I don't know if you guys noticed, I'm sure a handful of people did. I did a pre-recorded video on the fourth day of the war. That was Tuesday. And I posted that in the evening, and it was kind of just a news update, really. Well, I got a word from YouTube today that my account has been given a warning, which I do appreciate. They just gave me a warning, but they pulled the video, and they didn't say why. They just said I violated TOS. So naturally, I appeal, and then I have to take their training. And the YouTube training that they gave me was on the spreading of misinformation. So I assume what they are claiming I did was spread misinformation in my news update. I am not sure, but it seems like censorship is going to be coming for this war itself in regards to, just like we saw with COVID during the lockdowns, that if you were to speak out about, the jibby jabs and all that stuff, well, remember I had a stream taken down. My account got flagged, couldn't use it for a week because I talked about mass formation psychosis by Dr. Robert Malone. Read an article, just reading an article the man wrote, this is during 2020, was enough for YouTube to strike the channel. Or this was in 2021. Been 2021 or 2022 because the vaccines were out, and that's what he was talking about. And I didn't say the V word, didn't do all that. So it seems like censorship is back in full swing on YouTube regarding analysis of the Iran war. So I've appealed. Hopefully I hear back from YouTube in the near future. And I was expecting to hear back from them sometime today. It's taken a little bit longer than I expected. I did it first thing in the morning. So that was my situation this morning. Woke up, realized that video got taken down. Luckily, my channel didn't have any strikes. So We're going to be getting into all this stuff, and I'm really excited to show you guys the new update on the eschatonvigil.org website, because that's what we're going to be end with as we move through. So smash that like, guys. Major thank you to Gorilla Biscuit for gifting a Codal Crew membership. Thank you for getting the party started, Gorilla Biscuit. Really appreciate it. And then he followed that up with a $5 super chat. So thank you very much, brother. Appreciate the support. And if you guys appreciate content like this, really it's just me and the World War Now guys that are focused on the Orthodox eschatological perspective on a lot of this stuff. Would appreciate any support. Thank you, B. Sirach, for gifting a Codal Crew membership. And a generous super chat from the Serbian Slav Squad says, did you watch Tucker's interview from last night about the Third Temple and the Iran War? I did watch I don't know which interview you're talking about. I did watch his stream or his video. And we're going to be playing two clips from it today. The one where he speculates that in the aftermath or in the process of this war, it's very likely that Israel is going to use it as an excuse to to destroy the Al-Aqsa Mosque, the Dome on the Rock, and begin construction of the Third Temple, which is something that I also agree with him on. So we're going to be watching the video of him talking about that, and then a clip from that long, because it was like an hour and a half, of him showing the rabbi who said they wish they did that during the 12-day war, and again, something to watch out for. So what we're witnessing right now is, I think it's unique in regards to the emphasis on eschatology, right? The news, if you watch Fox News and all these, it's talking about military and events and how successful Israel and the U.S. have been. Nobody's talking about, or at least focusing on, it's out there. I've seen people discussing it, but this is purely theological. Every side of this war is viewing it from an eschatological perspective, meaning this is moving towards the end times. The Christians that are voting in all the Zionists that run our government, they believe this is the end times. The Jews, as we're going to watch, I'm going to be showing you some clips and the fact that there's a new patch that the IDF has. They have one that describes or demonstrates or depicts the Greater Israel Project, which is the reestablishment of the Old Testament kingdom. And then they also have a new patch now, which is the Third Temple. So sounds like we know the objectives of the IDF and where things are going. Mr. Fist throws in 20. Thank you so much, brother. He says, World War Now is streaming in like 3 hours. Today's going to be lit. Absolutely. Absolutely. So thank you very much, Mr. Fista. Oh, and Wildcaster throws in 20, says, just listen to the Tucker Huckabee interview, and I just wanted to ask Huckabee, if being Jewish is so incredible and they have a biblical right to the land, why doesn't he ever convert? Love ya. Keep up the good work, man. Well, appreciate it. And he doesn't convert because he claims he believes Jesus Christ is the Messiah. How you get from Jesus Christ being the Messiah and then worshiping the people who deny him as Messiah and aren't even practicing the sacrificial tradition of the temple worship of the Old Testament, Judaism, biblically speaking, hasn't existed for 2,000 years, which is indicative of a potential Antichrist spirit. I feel like I got to watch what I say now. The Overton window was opening, I feel like, in the last year and a half or so, and now I'm a little afraid it's going to start closing on commentary on the war, but that's why we're just going to keep it theological. And from an Orthodox perspective, Zionism is Antichrist. Okay? Doesn't mean that Zionists can't be good people. Of course they can. We're not condemning individual people who may be delusional or fallen into prelest. But you can't be an Orthodox Christian and be a Zionist, because we are the church. And we truly believe we are the continuation of first the Mosaic covenant and of course the covenant with Christ. And you can't get around that. You can't get around that. So keep that in mind. Just to begin to dive into things, I want to give you guys first a framework on the different eschatological visions that we're dealing with right now. Okay, so obviously many of you are going to be more familiar with some of the Jewish eschatology, but let me tell you the sort of prophetic sequence of events that they themselves are desiring. So, first one being return of Jews to the land, Zionism, right? We get that with the Balfour Declaration early in the 20th century. The establishment of the State of Israel, 1948. These are the prophetic sequences that Jews have been anticipating. So that's true, 1948. The reclaiming of Jerusalem, 1967. Jews were able to reclaim Jerusalem. And what has yet to be fulfilled is full Jewish sovereignty over the Temple Mount. What does that mean? Well, full sovereignty over the Temple Mount means destroying the Al-Aqsa Mosque, destroying the Dome on the Rock, destroying the mosque. And that has yet to be completed. But that is the next step. After the destruction of the mosque, which they describe as the reclaiming of the Mount, is the building of the third temple. And once we get the third temple, we start getting the renewal of biblical sacrificial system, which is going to be inaugurated by the purification rituals with the red heifer that they purchased from Texas, 2 years ago? About a year and a half ago, somewhere around there. We talked about, actually it was 2 years ago, because they got the two heifers right around the solar eclipse that we had. I think that was in 2024. Yeah. So it's been 2 years. That's when they bought the red heifers. They're there in Israel waiting to be sacrificed. So those are sort of the prophetic sequences for Jews. And of course, that culminates once they get the purification ritual sacrifice system, the temple, the third temple built, then they believe their Messiah will come. And so this is the general perspective of the Jewish eschatological vision, and that's why this war is essential for the destabilization of the region, because they need to establish the greater Israel project from the Nile to the Euphrates. They want the Old Testament kingdom back, and that's why, as we're going to see here, this is why when you look at the map of what's going on, notice how many Israeli attacks are in Lebanon. Now, we're told it has to do with Hezbollah because there's Shia Islam. Okay. But almost half the military operations, and it's way more bombings than this map is showing because they can't show each single one. But Lebanon is just getting annihilated. And one of the funny things about this site, we're going to get into other stuff. Looks like this was just updated. But earlier, some of the stuff that it was saying, the breaking news, it showed President of Lebanon asked Macron to basically appeal to Israel to stop bombing Lebanon and Beirut. Then Macron makes a public announcement asking Netanyahu, stop bombing Lebanon, focus on Iran. And then it was like an hour later, and there was a massive bombing in Beirut by Israel. So sounds like they're certainly getting the cautionary tale there. But this is why Israel is so focused on bombing Lebanon, because they're using this as a pretext to essentially begin construction of the Greater Israel Project by annihilating the territories. They need all of Lebanon. Okay, eventually the Greater Israel Project is going to be all of Lebanon. And so you can see this map, the central section of this map, the goal of that is to be Israel. And that is what the Jews are looking forward to. And from the Israeli perspective, this war is going incredibly well. Incredibly well. As you can see here on the right side, these are all the Iranian leadership that's been annihilated. You see where it says eliminated? The U.S. and Israel has been incredibly successful at their targets and annihilating the leadership of Iran. Here you go. That looks like it just updated. So look at this. You have Lebanon President Anoun asked Macron to urge Israel not to bomb Dahiya, which is a suburb of Beirut. Then you get Macron publicly urges Netanyahu, do not expand war to Lebanon. And then an hour later, you get IDF strikes Hezbollah infrastructure in Dahiya. It's also obvious. Anyways, from the Shiite perspective, from the Islamic perspective of the Iranians, they believe, and they're the Twelvers. They believe in Twelver Shiism. And so the 12th Imam, the hidden Imam, is basically their Christ-like figure, their second coming of Christ, their Messiah-like figure. And they believe that the Mahdi is going to come and defeat all injustice and tyranny in the world, establish a global Islamic rule to punish all infidels, and bring ultimate justice before the day of judgment. And so in Shia traditions, this is precipitated by widespread turmoil before the Mahdi's appearance, major conflicts in the Middle East, and in Iranian revolutionary rhetoric, this means Israel is framed as the oppressor, the great Satan, and liberation of Jerusalem from U.S.-Israeli hands is the sacred objective. Okay? So for them, the eschatological importance, everything revolves around Jerusalem. The Christian Zionists, as we'll get into next, they believe that the Antichrist, because they're all raptured, right? They're out of here. They don't have to worry about the tribulation, all that different stuff. Again, they're not that any of that stuff is real. Okay, we're going to get into actual Orthodox eschatology. This is the nonsense of Christian Zionism. But Christian Zionists, they're going to get the heck out of here through the rapture, right? And then the Antichrist is going to persecute the Jews in Jerusalem. So their eschatology totally oriented around Jerusalem. The Jews totally oriented around reestablishing the third temple in Jerusalem. And the Twelvers, the Shia Islamists, theirs is about reclaiming Jerusalem and establishing this global Islamic utopia, I guess. So all of these perspectives are being brought together. You know, the prophetic timeline for the Christian Zionists is restoration of Israel, global gathering of the Jews, which has already happened, and then the rebuilding of the temple, which we've seen Pete Hegseth himself call for. And then we have the tribulation and the rise of Antichrist, the final war centered on Jerusalem, and then the return of Christ. So we got all these Christians in America literally promoting the Antichrist, promoting the coming of Antichrist, because in their mind, they're not going to be here to deal with it because they're the true believers. So they're all in on more and more chaos, more death and destruction, more Middle Eastern wars. If you didn't see, even CNN had a poll. So this is a liberal CNN, had a poll that Trump, his approval rate by Republicans is 98%. 98%. And those who strongly support, meaning they think this has been a fantastic administration, was 53%. That was higher than Barack Obama or Bush got. So the idea that Trump is losing his base, he's not. He's losing the people that are more nuanced, more intelligent, more thoughtful, who understand the theology behind all this stuff. He's actually not losing his base. The evangelicals and the Christian Zionists are fully in and invested on what's getting ready to transpire, which we already see is there's already rhetoric coming out of Washington, D.C. that this is going to last till September, which is exactly what I just said in my last update 2 days ago. Is the initial rhetoric from Trump was that this war was 4 to 5 days. Well, we're past that now. We're on day 6. And now it said, well, it was on day 4, they started saying, well, it's 4 to 5 days, but it may go 4 to 5 weeks. Okay. Now, recently, they're saying, well, it may go up to actually September. It may just be a few months. So 4 to 5 months now. And you can see how this is it's just like Iraq. Like Rumsfeld during the Iraq invasion, he said the exact same thing. Oh, it may take a few days. Well, it may take a few weeks. Well, it may take 6 months, but definitely not beyond that. That's what Rumsfeld told the U.S. Regarding the invasion of Iraq. No more than 6 months. Well, we were there for almost 20 years. So this same thing is getting ready to happen. Now, there is rumors today that Iran hit the USS Abraham Lincoln. The U.S. Command Center in Bahrain claims that that is not the case. And so it's believed that this was a false rumor that was spread by the Iranians earlier today. And as you can see right here on the map, you can click on Abraham Lincoln. And then if you click right here where the Iranian flag is, it says U.S. USS Abraham Lincoln IRGC claim is debunked. It's been officially debunked, but that was going viral today, claiming that there was multiple casualties in the USS Abraham Lincoln's like our biggest carrier, right? So if they actually sunk that thing, that's trillions of dollars. All those fighter jets, helicopters, missiles, ammunition, the ship itself, that would be terrible. That'd be treacherous for the United States, but it could be possible. Many have been speculating that their anti-naval ballistic missiles could actually take out some of these USS carriers. But there was a really close call today. From what we're hearing, again, this is mainstream news. This is other people on social media that is verifying this. There was going to be an aviation attack that I think it was MiGs, two or four MiGs from Iran were on their way to bomb the biggest military base in the area, which is in Bahrain, and it houses like 10,000 U.S. soldiers. So they were on their way, and within, I guess, 2 minutes of them arriving, the Bahrainians, or I believe they had fighter jets. They have F-15s that the U.S. sold them. They were able to take out these MiGs right before they were able to reach the base. So this was totally unexpected. They were caught off guard. According to what's being reported, they were able to take down these MiGs before they're able to drop their bombs. And so the base has been spared. But this is, if they were to get that base, that is central command for the United States operation. If they take out that base, that is where this whole operation is being game planned from. So that would have been massive. And as you saw last night, I don't know if you've been following last night, Iran made multiple successful strikes inside the heart of Israel. I mean, I saw some videos where it looked like a nuclear winter, like entire areas, just absolutely, it looked like Gaza. So basically, Israel got some treatment that looked very similar to Gaza. And Israel's also been very successful. So the Iranians are getting hurt. And as I told you, the main strategy that they have is that their central command is decentralized. So unlike the operation of the Israelis in the U.S., where there's a strict hierarchy, there's a line of succession that goes straight up to central command, and Iran, knowing, again, the war that they're getting ready to be in, they have decentralized their command. So it's all regionally operated. So they have minor hierarchies, if you will, across the entire nation of Iran, and they all have their own game plan. So I'm sure they're communicating if they can, but say the U.S. and Israel take out Tehran, the war still continues. And what we've seen is that this has radicalized the Shia, right? Just like what we saw with Iraq and Afghanistan. As we go in and then we alienate an entire group of people. And so Israel and the U.S., we're essentially at war now with Shia Islam, which is not going to be successful, right? That's literally what the claim is of Israel, of why they have to bomb Hezbollah. Well, they're Shia Islam and they're backed by Iran. Okay, but them launching a few projectiles while you're getting bombarded by Iran seems to be sort of misplaced objectives. Shouldn't you be focusing on Iran? Well, no, because for them, it's all the same thing. Destabilizing Iran, destroying Lebanon, expanding across Jordan. You know, this is all part of the larger plan. So keep all of that in mind as we discuss things today. Don Vicious throws in 5, says, it's crazy seeing James Tallarico push so much Gnosticism to the mainstream. I don't even know who that is. I have no idea. Do you guys know who James Tallarico is? I have no idea what you're referring to. No idea who that is. Anybody in the chat, can you help me out? Give me some type of perspective here. True Talk. No idea. All right. Well, I appreciate it, Dan Vicious. I have no idea who you're referring to. Josiah Elleron, shout out to you, brother. He says, since I have reduced my YouTube time for Lent, I'm just popping in to pay you a super chat. Well, thank you for your tithe, your almsgiving. And then I'll be praying for you and your work. Well, thank you so much, Josiah. Truly appreciate that, my man. God bless you. And Voltaire throws in 10, says, Israel, Operation Roaring Lion, 1 Peter 5:8. What does 1 Peter 5:8 say? 1 Peter 5:8. Let's see. First Peter 5:8. Be alert and sober of mind. Your enemy, the devil, prowls around like a roaring lion looking for someone to devour. Well, that's very apropos. And keep in mind here, guys, this is getting a little bit more occult, if you will. Like Israel struck the girls' school and killed like 165 primary school aged girls. I mean, these were children. And one of the things I thought about, and I don't mean to be too conspiratorial, but how because of the theology that is infused within Israel's ambitions, you can't help but think there might be actual sacrifices going on. That maybe killing innocent girls that have nothing to do with your war is actually part of a deeper occultic or Kabbalistic process for ritual magic in which they have to sacrifice innocents. I mean, this is the whole basis between Epstein and these degenerates and the Satanism of pedophilia that are, I mean, is Israel just ready to sacrifice people? Because it sure seems that way. DC Heat throws in 25. Thank you very, very much. He says, my combat of your censorship. Thank you. Love all your work you're doing. Will be in my prayers. Well, thank you very much, DC Heat. I appreciate that. Hopefully, I can get the video restored. I don't even know, again, what YouTube took it down for. They gave me no explanation, and when I had to do their training to get access to my YouTube channel again, it was all about misinformation. So I assume that's what they're claiming I posted. I don't know. Keenan Beats throws in $5 over on Streamlabs. He says, hey, DPH, your World War III streams have been extremely interesting and helpful to me and my buddies. You're by far the best at breaking down these situations from an Orthodox point of view and articulating the ideas in a way everybody can understand. Thank you. Well, thank you, brother. I appreciate that. And he says, that being said, is there anywhere we can find your video from Tuesday? Yeah, I'm going to upload the video from Tuesday up on the Logos Academy. I would upload on the other YouTube channel, but again, if YouTube's going to strike me for it, I can't do that. So I could put it up on X. It may take a while to upload. It's like an hour-long video, but I could put it up on X. That way, it shouldn't get removed from there. But thank you so much, Keenan. Really appreciate the support. Okay. So I wanted to show you again. We'll refer back to this map. This is actually a really good site. Let me share it with you guys. This is called Iran Strike. It does a pretty good job of keeping you up to speed on everything. And if you want to just kind of look generally over at a live interactive map, this is one of the better ones that I've been able to find. I was searching online for them. And the position of the ships do move. Just FYI. So, now, the whole war from an Orthodox perspective, let's get into it. Now, I mentioned this in my drama alert, but we can't do this stream without also mentioning this. Zionism is the forerunner of the Antichrist. That is Elder Athanasios Militanios, and he's referring to, again, the satanic spirit that controls America, let's face it, but much of the Western world, and is literally the scourge of the earth. I mean, think of how peaceful the planet would be if Zionism didn't exist. How much problems exist in the world, how much human suffering exists because of Zionism. And so Father Spiridon Bailey has this to say. This is an excerpt from his book, Orthodoxy and the Kingdom of Satan. And Father Spiridon Bailey has this to say on modern Judaism. It is important to recognize that modern Judaism is not simply an incomplete version of the Old Testament faith, or a slightly altered version that cannot accept God's Messiah. It is a complete perversion of that faith that rejects and nullifies the faith of the Old Testament. The evangelicals that insist that there is still some biblical foundation to Judaism are in error. They seek to accommodate apostates, but in doing so, they incorporate false teachings into their own faith. And I thought that was important to address this synthesis between the false religion of Jews. I mean, you ask the average evangelical, and they truly believe that modern Judaism is the same thing as the Old Testament. I mean, it's totally asinine. It's totally asinine. There's no way that it could actually be the case. But this is part of their theology, and this is why they worship Jews. And in fact, there's a video I saw circulating on the internet, and you can probably find it on X if you just search for this, but it was a rabbi telling Christians, you already worship one Jew, meaning Jesus Christ, but you're misunderstanding your role is to worship all Jews. Our goal is to get down on our knees and worship all the Jews, according to this potential rabbi, or this particular rabbi. So you can already see the Noahide laws, some of the eschatology. You know, Jews believe that once they build the third temple and their Messiah comes, they will rule the world. Now, we do believe that they'll rule the world through the Antichrist, and that the Antichrist does have to be Jewish, obviously. And for the Jews, they truly believe that we are all going to be slaves to them. I have a video I'm going to show you today of a rabbi promising Jews that once the Messiah comes, once their Mashiach comes, each Jew will have 2,800 Gentile slaves. That is their promise once the Messiah comes. Keep that in mind. I'm going to show it to you. Here, it's a great post from Conrad from World War Now. Shout out to him. This is a prophecy from Elder Theodoros from Crete. Guys, you will be drinking your coffee and you will hear that the Jews attacked the nuclear program of Persia, Iran. That's when events of greater magnitude will begin. And at the same time, or a little earlier, Erdogan will fall. These will be the signs of the big events to come. So you understand that they are near. They're at the door. Now, I was telling you about this previously, and here is the former Prime Minister of Israel telling you that Erdogan in Turkey is next. So let me get the audio fixed up.
A new Turkish threat is emerging. I want to be very clear. Turkey and Qatar have gained influence in Syria, are seeking influence elsewhere and everywhere throughout the region. And from here, I warn, Turkey is the new Iran. Erdogan is...
It's funny how people don't know they're supposed to clap. He's like, Turkey. So Israel announces another existential threat and enemy that they're getting ready to create. And he's like, Turkey is the new Iran. And everybody's like, what? I thought Iran is Iran. And they're like, oh, I guess we're supposed to clap.
It's sophisticated.
But why is this important? Because this relates to our eschatological worldview as Orthodox Christians. You see, our timeline, our perspective is totally different from the West of Christendom because we believe in the Third Rome. We truly believe in the sanctity of Byzantium and then the role that Moscow played and Russia played in the preservation of our church and our tradition, which is the only true faith, the only true form of Christianity, the only true world religion. So our perspective is actually nuanced. It's a little bit different. There is no other eschatological perspective that's the same thing as the Eastern Orthodox Church. And so for us, we believe that this whole battle is going to transition from Iran over to Anatolia, where modern-day Turkey is. And as we've just seen in this video, 2 weeks before the war in Iran began, it's almost like everyone in Israel got the memo, hey, you got the green light on the war. The U.S. is going to go ahead and move their ships and all the logistics and start funneling all their ammunition and soldiers to the Middle East. And they're like, okay, great. And then they sent out the call, and multiple people are saying, Turkey's the new Iran. Erdogan has to go. There was like 4 different officials or former representatives of the Israeli government that said such. So Keep an eye out for Erdogan. Keep an eye out for antagonistic relationships between Israel and Turkey. Now, there was 2 attacks by Iran in Turkey. One was on a international airport, and another one was all the way up here on a potential NATO base where, the U.S. has soldiers and ammunition. And it was apparently intercepted by the Turks. But this was the first attempt by Iran to actually hit a NATO nation. Now, why is NATO important? Because we believe that Turkey is going to backstab Russia. And Russia is the one that's going to take Turkey out. Now, the reason why Turkey backstabs Russia is because Erdogan, who is an Islamic moderate, right? The history from Ataturk forward, the history of Turkey is that it's a unique form of Islam. It's more secular, right? When Turkey founded, it was very secular. In fact, you were punished for wearing too much religious regalia out in public. They wanted to be a modern nation because part of being the dying old man that the Ottoman Empire was, is they wanted to modernize. They wanted to be part of the future. And so now, 100 some years later, Turkey does have, more fundamentalist and very fervent religious Islamic believers in their nation. But there's a party called the Kemalists who are still that continuation of Ataturk. They're more pro-Western, they're more liberal, and they're way more secular. And it's our belief as Orthodox Christians that when Erdogan steps down, is assassinated, dies, something happens where he's no longer in power, it's the Kemalists that are going to then take power in Turkey. And that is what we need to keep our eyes out for, because that is the reason why Turkey will shut the Bosphorus Strait to Russia, because Turkey is a NATO nation. That's important to remember. So if the Western backers of the Kemalists get in power, Turkey is going to be way more Western. And if they block the Bosphorus Strait to the Russians, that is what we believe then sets this whole thing off. But we're already in a global war, guys. This is already a world war. So I premise today's conversation, has World War III began? My humble response is yes, it's absolutely begun. It's absolutely begun. Ukraine, Zelensky's already, he's in an existential fight with Russia. Russia, it seems like they're getting to ramp things up and they're going to take out Ukraine because they have to logistically move soldiers to the south, right? The Caucasus region right here is the underbelly of Russia. And they have all these Muslim nations, principalities, if you will, small states, Russian states, in this Caucasus region. They don't want them to get fired up. They don't want them to be antagonistic towards the Russian Empire or the Russian nation, the republic, if you will. The Federation is what they call it, the Russian Federation. So Russia is going to take out Turkey for siding with the West and blocking their access to the Black Sea, which is right here. And that's where Sevastopol is the head of the Russian Navy. That's why all this battle in Ukraine, this is more than just, a buffer state. This has to do with full dominance and access to the Aegean, which is right here. This is the Aegean Sea. They want access to the Aegean through the Black Sea. That's why taking over Crimea and even the Donbass, the eastern part of Ukraine, is so important for Russia, because that gives them access. That gives them naval access. But if Turkey blocks it, this is what we as Orthodox Christians are anticipating. So keep that in mind. Now, next one I want to show you is a sign that the fulfillment of the prophecies is approaching will be the destruction of the Omar Mosque in Jerusalem. That's the Al-Aqsa Mosque. That is the Dome on the Rock. It will be destroyed to rebuild the Temple of Solomon, which is said to have been in its place. And the rebuilt temple, the Zionists will eventually proclaim the Antichrist as the Messiah. I hear that the Jews are already preparing to build the Temple of Solomon. The resource cites St. Paisios' words. So this is straight from St. Paisios. Again, talking about what I'm laying out here is we're watching like the spiritual warfare play out in three-dimensional space. That's what is going on here. We're watching eschatology play out before our eyes. It's rather unbelievable. And here's the next one. Timothy Honeycutt shared this. This is from Elder Justin Parvu. The Jews rule the world, and the Americans work for them. True. Believing they have come to dominate it because they have no more shame. That was an interview in 2009. And then Metropolitan Neophytos of Morphu, I mentioned this in the last drama alert. We have entered a very dangerous year, talking the year of 2026. It may be the supreme and prophesied year of the world war. Since we do not correct ourselves through peace, we will be corrected through a difficult operation. And it certainly seems like that's exactly where we're at. I did have a bit of some good news, and that was the Orthodox Christians in Tehran, in Iran, celebrated liturgy amongst the bombing by the U.S. and Israel. So they were able, you can click on this article, I'll share this link if anybody wants it, but they were able to celebrate liturgy even among the war going on around them. So glory to God for that. Blessed Lent to all the faithful in Iran and throughout the Middle East. Now, so the St. Paisios warns us about the building of the third temple. Now, one of the prerequisites for the Jews to bring about their Messiah is called the Greater Israel Project, as I already mentioned, and the expansion of modern-day Israel, this little sliver right here in the Levant, expanding all the way, again, encapsulating all of Lebanon, most of Syria, a significant portion of Iraq, all of Jordan, much of Saudi Arabia, and portions of Egypt. All of this is believed by the Jews that will become their dominion. And I'm going to show you a video of an Israeli rabbi right here, or this is the finance minister, talking about the new map that they're going to construct. So check this out.
Eventually, our borders will extend from Lebanon, the Great Desert, which is Saudi Arabia, and then from the Mediterranean to the Euphrates. And who's on the other side of the Euphrates? The Kurds. And the Kurds are our friends. So we have the Mediterranean behind us, the Kurds in front of us, Lebanon, which really needs the umbrella of protection of Israel. And then...
Yeah, Lebanon definitely needs the protection of Israel. Israel's the one that's killing everyone. Remember the pager attack that Israel did last year? That was in Lebanon. That was in Beirut. That was against Hezbollah. The irony, right? That Israel says, well, Lebanon, they truly do need us to protect them. What, to protect them from you? You're the one that keeps killing them. Lebanon used to be a Christian nation in the Middle East. Lebanon used to be majority Christian. Not anymore. Guess who's the main culprit behind that? Israel, because they're the ones that intensified the whole situation, got more, Hezbollah, all this stuff got ramped up. It's because of the actions of Israel. It's because of the constant conflict.
I believe we're going to take Mecca, Medina, and Mount Sinai and purify those places. Eventually.
So did you hear that? They're going to take Mount Sinai and Mecca and Medina. Think about that. Think of that if you're a Muslim. Now, again, Islam is not our friend as Orthodox Christians. But if you're a Muslim, you have the Israeli finance minister telling you that their plan is to take your two holiest cities in Saudi Arabia. Good luck. But again, the chutzpah of these people, I bet they will try. And here is the new, I love the way that this woman, I don't even know who she is, but framed it. New Antichrist patch just dropped. So I just showed you the Greater Israel Project, right? Which is, strangely enough, a patch on the shoulder of IDF soldiers, which depicts the Greater Israel Project, which tells you what the ultimate goal is. Now, here is the new patch, another patch. So along with the Greater Israel Project, they have a new one that is the temple, the third temple being built on the rock here, on the mount. So what does all this mean? Well, why don't we let this IDF soldier tell us. This was in Tucker's video last night, talking about how he truly believes they're going to try to build the third temple. So listen to this.
West side. Here's an IDF soldier, apparently an American by his accent, describing why he's at war. Watch this.
They call this operation the Swords of Iron. But what are we really fighting for? We're fighting for the right of the Jewish people to exist, be Jewish, practice their religion, and be free.
No one is stopping the Jews from existing or practicing their religion or being free. The reason why the world is upset is because Jews are imposing, Israel is imposing upon the rest of the world. I mean, ask the Palestinians, ask the Lebanese. Like, what are we, ask the Iranians. No one is stopping you from practicing Judaism. We may disagree with it. It's fundamentally antagonistic towards a traditional Christian faith. But I don't even know many of the anti-Zionists. I've never heard anybody that wants to go round up people or preventing them from practicing their Judaism. That's not why people dislike you. That is not what you're fighting for. You're fighting for greater Israel. You're fighting for the third temple. You're fighting for the desolation of Gentile nations so you can bring your Messiah.
And one day our true leader will come and we'll be united as the whole Jewish nation so we can rebuild the Beit HaMikdash.
Beit HaMikdash, probably mispronouncing it. That's the Hebrew term for the temple, the third temple. We are doing this so we can rebuild the temple. Now you'll notice he's pulling off patches on Velcro on his IDF uniform. These are not civilian clothes. This is the uniform of the government of Israel, of its military. And he has patches on that uniform, one of which is a symbol of the temple, the third temple. So it just couldn't be clearer. Why are we doing this? To rebuild the third temple. Now, if you think we're just cherry picking this off the internet, one guy wearing an unauthorized temple patch, paid for, by the way, a uniform paid by us, armaments paid for by us, the U.S. taxpayer pays for all this stuff, one way or another. The U.S. taxpayer pays for the military of Israel. Boy, does it. If you think we're being unfair and just like found one guy, well, here's a bunch of guys. It took us about 2 minutes on the internet to find this today. Here is a selection of IDF soldiers. Let's put it on the screen. There you go. And all of them have the same patch. Look for me. Look carefully at that. What is that? That's the temple. That is the third temple.
So again, this isn't conspiracy theory. Anyone who wants to poo-poo you for talking about that the Israelis, the Jews want to build the third temple is gaslighting you. This is explicitly their goal. It's explicit. They're wearing it, again, it's a brand new patch. They didn't even have these patches until very recent. Here's another video. This is one disturbing video of an Israeli rabbi openly plotting to shoot a missile into the Al-Aqsa Mosque and blame it on Iran. And so we're going to watch that in just a second. Let me catch up on some of your guys' comments. Mr. Fist throws in 10, says, your YouTube education. I'm just imagining you strapped to your chair, Clockwork Orange style, learning about malinformation and how diversity is a strength. Well, that's literally basically what happened. Is I had to take the training course when they removed my video on YouTube. It was like they would give me a scenario. Now, is this allowed on YouTube or is this not allowed? And then it's kind of obvious. No, it's not allowed. Oh, correct. And then it would make you go through a series of 7 questions. But yes, I have been fully re-educated by YouTube. I will never say misinformation or a bad thing again. Right, YouTube? Please restore my video. Dangerfield. Oh, man. Shout out to you, brother. I miss you, man. We need to catch up soon. Throws in $5, says, the history books say that the good guys won every time at war. What are the odds? Yeah, Norm MacDonald. Pretty high, I'd guess, because, you know, clearly Yahweh favors the Jews, and whatever side they're on, they're going to end up winning. So, hilarious quote from Norm MacDonald. Hey, BLA, God bless you, brother. I love you. Appreciate you. I hope you and the wife are doing well. Dan Vicious throws in 2 more, says, Tallarico running for Congress in Texas. Oh, okay. I have not been following that. I did see that Dan Crenshaw lost his primary, which glory to God for that. That's fantastic. We got One-Eyed McCain out of the Congress. That can only be a benefit for the United States. But I have not been following. I haven't really been following any of the congressional races, be it state or federal. The only one I've really been following is James Fishback, the gubernatorial candidate for Florida. That one I think is interesting. And he has been very outspoken regarding Zionism and Israel. And I don't know if you guys saw, but the latest news, X banned James, and then because of public crying, they brought him back. So we know whose side Elon Musk is with. But James Fishback said he was going to do a tour of Florida to meet constituents, in which he would travel to every Waffle House in the state of Florida. He contacted Waffle House 3 weeks ago, in which they said, that's a great idea. Why don't you go ahead and do that? We support you. And then somebody must have given Waffle House a phone call, because they have now banned James Fishback from every Waffle House in the state of Florida and condemned his language. Condemned him. I wonder what that has to do. So Waffle House capitulated to, you would imagine, the same powers that be. There was a bodybuilder, Mark Plummer, who isn't even super political, but I guess he has a considerable following. He started speaking critical of Israel just recently. They took his YouTube, his Instagram, and then they shut down his payment processor and took down his website within a matter of 2 hours. So, just expect things to increase. I highly, highly anticipate that censorship is going to dramatically increase in regards to what they'll label as anti-Semitism and hate speech. We've already seen all the money that the Adelsons and the Jewish lobby has already put forth. So do expect that, guys. Samuel throws in 10, says, hey, DPH, longtime listener, first-time super chatter. What is the source for your intro music, particularly the one that samples the Black Gospel song? P.S. Thank you for introducing me to St. Paisios. It's all songs from B-Dibe. They're all on my YouTube channel. I don't know which one specific you're referring to, but if you just go to my YouTube channel, click on playlist, scroll down to Logos Music, all the music that I have is somewhere in that playlist. So check that out. Avant-Garde throws in 5, says, retake Constantinople. Amen. Wildcaster throws in 5, says, how do we as Americans not despair over how satanic our country is and the fact that our tax dollars are going towards the coming of the Antichrist? Well, it's out of your control. It's out of your control. So the only thing, one, despair is a sin. So you are called as a Christian to never despair, because that would insinuate that you have lost faith. You have lost the ultimate hope in Christ. So do not despair, but everything that's outside your control honestly shouldn't weigh you down, right? So I'm coming to you, talking to you about the satanic Antichrist agenda that is backing the United States of America, the military-industrial complex, much of the EU, and Israel. And at the same time, I'm going to sleep very soundly tonight, because I'm going to do my prayers, read the scripture, attend services for Lent and church on liturgy on Sunday, and that's what you can do. So in the face of all this stuff, that's why, this is a theological stream, right? We're talking about the war from a theological perspective, and we got absolutely fanatical Muslims on one side and absolutely fanatical Jews on the other side. The only thing is for you to become fanatical for Christ, right? Which doesn't involve direct engagement with either one of these communities, but recognizing that just because, the enemy of my enemy is not my friend in this case. Okay? Both of them are not your friends. We probably could get along a little bit better with the Shia Muslims, but the real illumination here is that you need to double down on your own faith. You need to double down on your own traditions. Because if you are just floating around, that's why these Protestants and these evangelicals are worshiping the Antichrist religion. If you're not rooted in something, you're going to be baseless. You're going to be swept away with the zeitgeist, the spirit of the world. And who runs this world? So if you're swept up with the spirit of this world, who do you think you're ultimately worshiping? Oh, shoot, Andrew, this is a friend from church. Andrew throws in 20, says, thanks for the coverage from an Orthodox perspective. Crazy times. God bless you, brother, and stay safe. Well, Andrew, God bless you and Adam, man. Hope you guys are doing well. It's a good friend from church. He actually runs our men's group now. I used to do it. Now Andrew's in charge. So shout out to you, brother. Thank you so much for being here and the support. Over on Streamlabs, George throws in $3, says, it might be interesting to have John Kiriakou. I'm a big fan of John Kiriakou, and I didn't realize, I knew he was Greek by the last name. I did not know he's a devout Orthodox Christian. On the show for further discussion on this topic. Not sure if you have listened to any of his stuff before. I have. I personally am not entirely convinced that there isn't some propagandizing through him, but nonetheless, well, he seems genuine. I've been following a lot of the interviews from John recently in the last month or so, and he seems genuine. I may not agree with every perspective he has, but I would love to have a conversation with him. If anybody knows how to get a hold of John Kiriakou, I would definitely set up a conversation with him. I'd love to. All right, over on Dono Chat. Let's see. Nobody's anything in. And Tiberius Rex throws in 10, says, you exit and build. You go back to the land. You trust in the process. Remember, the kingdom is not of this world. These are the labor pains showing us the time for tending our flocks has come. Amen to that, Tiberius. Amen to that. All right. So let's get back to moving through here. This is Tucker talking about or showing a video of an Israeli rabbi openly plotting to shoot a missile at the Al-Aqsa Mosque and blame it on Iran. So no surprise there. That's why the whole lead up was showing you the importance of the third temple, the importance of the reestablishment of the sacrificial system, the importance of the expansion of the borders of Israel. All of this is eschatological, right? When we're dealing with religion, these people are not going to stop. Israel is not going to stop. Iran is not going to stop. For Iran, this is a fight to the death. This is total war, right? This is a fight to the death. So realize what we're in right now and realize the major consequences of what may unfold.
Particularly candid and honestly kind of articulate clip from a couple of years ago. This is from August of 2024 from an Israeli rabbi, Joseph Misrach, describing how Israel should take advantage of a then ongoing conflict with Iran, much less intense than the current conflict we're seeing with Iran, to destroy the Dome of the Rock in Al-Aqsa. Watch this.
If it was up to me, the last time when they shot hundreds of missiles, I would pretend that one missile came from Iran and shoot it down. You know, then all the Arabs would go against Iran and it would be the end of the problems. You make them fight with each other, this bunch of lunatics. Never too late, you deal with a bunch of cowards.
Shoot it down into the Dome of the Rock in Al-Aqsa. Destroy what's on what the Israelis call the Temple Mount on the foundation stone. Destroy it and blame the Iranians. And that has the effect, as you just heard him say, of turning our enemies against each other. Turning our enemies against each other.
Useful dialectic, don't you think? And this is why, remember again, my video was taken down, but in my emergency update, I talked to you about how Tucker, he claims that he has direct contact. I don't know if it was, again, who exactly in these nations he was referring to, but in Saudi Arabia and Kuwait, they had arrested Mossad agents with bombs. Now, I've told you, the Arab nations, the Gulf nations, are in a incredibly precarious situation with this war. The Bapco refinery in Bahrain was attacked today. From what I was reading, they were able to get the flames under control. But these OPEC nations, these Arab Gulf Coast nations, they are entirely dependent on oil, right? They're oil rich. However, they live literally in the desert. And so when you look at the water consumption, if their desalination plants, the facilities and the factories that take the salt out of the seawater so it's drinkable, If those get destroyed, these nations do not exist. They are totally artificial, right? They are totally dependent upon the military protection by the United States. They are totally dependent on technology, allowing these, like Dubai, a utopia, to exist in the middle of the desert. And they depend on the money that comes from the oil. Right now, they're not selling oil because the Strait of Hormuz is blocked. And if Iran were to attack the water facilities of, the Emiratis, Kuwait, Bahrain, Saudi Arabia, these nations are in serious, serious turmoil. So this is why when we're talking about this, both Israel and Iran, I believe, are attacking these OPEC nations. That's the realization, what the rabbi just said, is that Israel, they may have some type of superficial agreement with the Saudi royal family or the royal families of these smaller Gulf nations, but they don't want them powerful, because the whole point of the Greater Israel Project, as I just showed you, is eventually they want to take Mecca and Medina. They want to control the entire region. So to do that, you don't want a bunch of super wealthy oil nations in the Gulf. You don't want these nations to be able to exude influence or power over you, or maybe some of your plans in the future. So when Tucker mentioned that Mossad agents with bombs were already found in some of these nations, it makes total sense. I saw people online respond to it, oh, that can't be true. They're on the side of Israel and the United States. Are they, though? They were definitely on the side of the United States. The United States definitely has an agreement with these nations. The United States has an invested interest in protecting these nations and these nations continuing to exist. But Israel doesn't. Israel has no interest in these nations continuing to exist. And so we don't know how long this war is going to go, but it's very possible that the Arabian Peninsula is entirely changed after this. The Sykes-Picot Agreement is what divvied up these nations after World War I. The Sykes-Picot Agreement is, when we look at those nation states in the Arab Peninsula, that's what created those lines in the borders of each little nation. Well, that seems like it's going to go right out the door. That if things continue to escalate, and the U.S. is already running out of ammunition, right? We're already moving ammunition and intercepting missiles from the Pacific theater to the Middle Eastern theater, which now weakens the defenses of South Korea, Japan, and Taiwan. And if you're China, you're sitting there rubbing your hands, because now the U.S. doesn't even have the ammunition to stop you if you're ready to go take Taiwan. So, and we can't produce missiles, right? This is the reality of this war right now, is Iran is using the Shahed drones. They're about $30,000, at most $50,000 a piece. Do you know how much it takes for the United States to shoot one of these drones down? One of these drones that Iran is using that are anywhere from 30,000, at most 50,000. It cost us multiple $1 million, because we shoot one intercepting missile, whether it be the THAAD or the Patriot system, is at least $1 million. And we typically shoot 2 or 3 when the drones come. So for every, let's say at most $50,000 that Iran is spending, we are spending $3 million plus. How long do you think we can do that? America is not in, this is not. Now, are we successful in our strategic bombing? Absolutely. We have been very successful. The U.S. and Israel have been very successful. But what did you just see? What was it, yesterday? That we're now logistically moving troops into the Middle East. There are now troops on the ground. Now, we were told at the beginning of this, of course, no troops on the ground, not going to happen. Well, that changed pretty quickly. So realize for Israel, getting the Sunnis and the Shias to fight each other is only beneficial for them. Getting the Iranians to bomb the refineries of Bahrain and Kuwait and the United Arab Emirates and Saudi Arabia and Oman, these are good for Israel. And so it makes a little bit more sense now why Israel, Netanyahu, called Trump and said, hey, we're going forward. You can join us or not. And then Trump's like, what? We discussed it. Our bases are going to be the first thing attacked. And so That's when Trump and Marco Rubio said, well, that's why then Trump implemented and went ahead with the war, because Netanyahu was going to anyways. And Netanyahu knew that the first targets, once this war started, were Americans and American military bases. So for Israel, they don't care. They do not care. All of this so far, this war has gone incredibly well for Israel. And if you were Netanyahu, you don't want this thing to stop anytime soon at all. One, it allows them to take care of the Hamas-Palestinian situation. It allows them to take care of Hezbollah and Lebanon. It allows them to take care of terrorists within Syria and Iraq and surrounding nations. And it allows them to give a pretext to begin to erode the power of the Gulf nations, of the Arab nations. So from an Israeli perspective, this has been incredible. This has not been a failure at all. From the American perspective, this is a nightmare because it doesn't look like we're going to be getting out of it anytime soon. And they're already asking, what was it, Congress or the Senate is already asking for a $50 billion additional budget for this war. And we're so low on ammunition that we've asked for some back from Ukraine.
Well, they've refused to recognize it for quite some time. The Europeans are the enemies, the mortal enemies of the Israelis. That's the Israeli perspective, obviously. Look at the effects. And so if that were to happen in this conflict, it's not the Israelis who would bear the brunt of it. It's the Europeans, it's the Canadians, it's the Australians, and it's us, and it's the Russians. 20% of Russia is Muslim. All of those countries would be in for serious turmoil and bloodshed, and maybe already this shortly into the war.
You see, in a way, what Israel's doing is bringing all of the first world European nations into a state of existential threat that they themselves exist in. It's like Israel is falling off a cliff and they're like latching onto us to make sure that they're going to pull us down with them. Or it's like a drowning victim that the lifeguard goes out to save the person drowning, and the person drowning then starts pulling on them and then drowns the lifeguard. This feels exactly our relationship with Israel. Tucker is a bit too much pro-Islam for me. Well, I don't know. Could be. I mean, I'm certainly no fan of Islam. I've had conversations with Muslims that tell you exactly what they actually think, and not interested. Patrick throws in $5, says, Independent Baptist here from Southern Indiana / Louisville, Kentucky area. Been listening to many Orthodox podcasts and teachings over the year, loving it. Well, thank you, Patrick. I'm also a fellow Hoosier, so God bless you. Sounds like we come from the same neck of the woods. Dan Vicious throws in 5, says, Tallarico has been openly pushing the gospel of Thomas as truth and justifying trans. Oh, that's who Tallarico is. You're talking about the dude with the comb over, the like 40-year-old Democrat that was on Joe Rogan. Okay. See, I didn't realize what that guy's name was. Yes, I did see that. He's like massive leftist Democrat in the state of Texas, but he's almost like a Barack Obama, but his ideas are more radical than Obama's were. And I did see that. He was at a Protestant church and appealed to the gospel of Thomas because of the unification of opposites, and talking about how Christ essentially is okay with or was teaching something similar to transgenderism, the unification of opposites. It's Baphomet spirituality. It's Antichrist. It's evil. It's satanic. It's demonic. And you'd have to be half an idiot for some guy to stand in front of you and read the Gospel of Thomas, and you think that this is, the Gospel of Thomas? I haven't read that gospel. That sounds like a good one. PD Store throws in 2, says, I think it's John Kiriakou on Elon's platform. Okay. Yeah, I can try to DM him, see if he'll respond to me. Andrew sends in another one. God bless you, brother. He says, got to get back to work tonight. Keep up the great work, doctor. God bless all, and Christ be with you. Well, thank you so much, brother. God bless you and Adam. Hope you guys are doing well. Brother Brovet throws in 5, says, We bugged out following the prophecies of St. Paisios, Gabriel of Georgia, etc. back in 2020. Happy advice to others. Mike Lacey won. Oh, you know me. Oh, this is Mike Lacey. Oh, okay. No. I absolutely know who you are now, bud. Okay. So you got a new handle? I didn't realize that. Yeah. So returning back to the land, as was said earlier, I mean, doing the best you can to make your life as anti-fragile as possible is my best advice. You know, a lot of us, myself included, are not in a position where I have a bunch of land, a homestead, chickens, goats, cows, milk, all that. I don't have any of that. My life is not super anti-fragile. But if you are in a position where you can make it, I've made it as much as I can, do that. Because if what we're looking at, if this war continues, we're looking at the collapse of the dollar. We're looking at no longer the U.S. being the world hegemon. We're looking at a global war, and we're looking at trade and commerce being totally disrupted. Global trade is going to be totally disrupted. We're already seeing, Iran said that their ultimate goal is for gas prices, for the price of a barrel of oil to reach $200 globally. That is going to put a huge impact on all of us here in the United States, but everywhere around the world. I mean, the day after this war started, the UK doubled in gas price. So that's coming for us, which is, again, it's totally asinine because the U.S., we could just pump our own oil. We have enough oil. We shouldn't even be affected by any of this stuff. But of course, that's the game that our politicians play. They want to make us dependent on this global trade system. Thomas throws in 5, says, in the heart of North America, a gigantic volcano will erupt. The water, the air, and the land will be poisoned. St. Aristocles. 90% will die. Elder Joseph. Yes, that is true. We've talked about that in previous prophecies, that so again, regarding this timeline from the Orthodox perspective, it's the Great World War is well before the arrival of Antichrist. Okay, so we're not Protestants, we're not evangelicals. Do not expect the Great World War and then the Antichrist to emerge in like a couple of weeks. That's not what we believe. That's not how we understand this thing unfolding. I'm going to get to the timeline of what we think to be unfolding on this page right here. This is a fantastic timeline presented by the Escaton Vigil. But we believe that the Great World War is going to basically destroy the infrastructure that exists in the world now so that a new global centralized force can emerge. And it's going to rule the world from Jerusalem. So Antichrist may come in 20 years, 40 years, 100, maybe 10 years. We don't know. Maybe 5 years. But all we know is that the Great World War, I don't think it's 5 or 10 years, personally. I think it's well into the future, because we do not have the global currency yet. We don't have the global digital currency. And the war the point of the global Great World War is to destroy the structure that exists, the post-World War II structure, the American hegemonic structure, the military-industrial complex, the U.S. dollar as the reserve currency. That has to be destroyed so that a new one can emerge that is totally centralized and global. And that then sets the stage for Antichrist to emerge later. In that process, in that space between the end of the Great World War and the rise of Antichrist, we believe is a golden age of Orthodox prosperity, and that more and more people are going to convert to the church. More and more people are going to become aware. Their eyes are going to be clean so that they can see and their ears can hear what the true gospel of Christ is. And this is a sort of providential grace that God offers the whole world, because we believe that the Orthodox gospel has not reached every corner of the earth. Maybe the Protestant gospel, but not the Orthodox gospel. And so the technology, the state of the world and the development, because there is going to be fairly stable after the Great World War, that's when Orthodoxy is going to garner more and more converts, which and many people, and I personally believe that this has already begun. That's what we're seeing in Western Europe and specifically America. I mean, in America, the Eastern Orthodoxy is one of the faster growing denominations of Christianity. I think this is the beginning of that trend, which our saints have also discussed and prophesied about. Lasagna throws in 5. Thank you so much. No comment. And Alexander Kane throws in 5, says, thanks for your work. Just wanted to ask for prayers as I've been trying to join the church for around 2 years and am finally in catechumen classes. Well, glory to God, Alexander. That's great. Welcome home, brother. I'm curious why it took 2 years to become a catechumen, unless maybe your attendance was inconsistent, or maybe the parish you were moving around or something like that. But really glad to hear that you've finally joined the church, and glory to God, man. Look forward to the baptism and the full entry into the body of Christ. Okay, so next one I wanted to show you is that Israel announces the closure of the Al-Aqsa Mosque tomorrow. So think about that. What did I just show you guys? We just talked about the building of the third temple. We talked about how to establish the third temple. They first have to destroy the Al-Aqsa Mosque. And what came out today? Today, the day after Tucker Carlson announced that he suspects that Israel may in fact try to blow, which many of us have been speculating, Israel announces the closure of the Al-Aqsa Mosque tomorrow, Friday, the 3rd of Ramadan, to worshipers on the pretext of the danger resulting from the launch of Iranian missiles. And so as not to appear that this measure is directed at Muslims, it announced that the closure of the Church of the Holy Sepulchre and the Barak Wall, as if Christians and Jews gather on Fridays for prayer. It should be noted that the Jewish religious schools in occupied Jerusalem continue to hold gatherings, teachings, and celebrations on a daily basis. So check this out.
تعمل شرطة إسرائيل خلال الأسبوع الأخير بقوات معززة وبحال.
Okay, we're not going to sit there and listen to him. But ultimately, what it says is that they're going to shut down the mosque, which would be a perfect pretext to go ahead and blow it up. So just keep your eyes on that in the next week or two. Keep your eyes on that for the next week or two. That if the mosque gets blown up, this is full. We're right in the heart of an eschatological vision that is being perceived by multiple different traditions, right? Because the whole point today is just like we are viewing this eschatologically as Orthodox Christians. Now, our timeline, our perspective is very different. Shias believe this is eschatological, and the Jews believe this is eschatological. And then the Christian Zionists like Pete Hegseth, Lindsey Graham, John Hagee, Ted Cruz, all the Christian Zionists in America have put these people in a position that they believe the exact same bullshit. And we already have 6 servicemen that have died, with many more expected, and it's believed that America may be acting as if that they may be covering up some of the detrimental attacks that have occurred based on the Iranians. Okay, here's another video I want to show you guys. And this is Pete Hegseth declares global religious war to build the Jewish Temple Mount. Now, what did I just say? Tomorrow they're closing it, which is very interesting. Here's Hegseth, who's already said how much he enjoys fighting alongside his brothers, the Jews, the Israelis, and that they're a breath of fresh air, how they're the 2 strongest air forces in the world, and that they are just death and destruction is what he said today. Death and destruction will rain from the skies. He said that over and over. Death and destruction. Sounds very Christian.
There's no reason why the miracle of the reestablishment of the temple on the Temple Mount is not possible. I don't know how it would happen. You don't know how it would happen, but I know that it could happen.
What is that? That's the secretary.
Sometimes Tucker's reactions are pretty funny, but what is that? What is that? We're talking about the secretary, that he now refers to himself as the Secretary of War, not the Secretary of Defense. Now the Secretary of War declaring his Christian Zionist faith, that he wants a global war, religious war, to rebuild the third temple. Sounds like he's getting it.
Secretary of War right now overseeing the war with Iran that people fighting it are starting to say actually is about rebuilding this third temple. It's the same man. Okay, this is the point where you begin to think maybe we should have talked about this and its implications. And what are its implications? Religious war, global religious war. So the first heavily publicized move by the United States military and the Israeli military in this conflict was to kill the head of state of Iran, the 86-year-old Ayatollah Khomeini, who was replaced today by his son, who's apparently more anti-Western than he was. So I guess, strictly speaking, that wasn't very effective. But if you take 3 steps back, and no one did because everyone's busy denouncing him as Hitler and the most evil man in the world, and we're so grateful he's dead. When was the last time the United States military, or the Israeli, working in conjunction with the Israeli military, killed the head of a world's religion? Is that wise?
It is if you're Israel and you want to create massive chaos, if you want to create global war and instability so that you can go ahead with the implementation of your goals and objectives, that makes a lot of sense. If you're a rational person and you're wanting to engage war, and let's say the objective truly was regime change, probably creating a religious element to it. I mean, but leading up to this, it was political, right? The IRGC, but we can't deal with them. They're trying to get a nuclear weapon. Now, we were told last June they bombed and destroyed the nuclear facilities. Now, Pete Hegseth, I showed a video, I believe in a drama alert or before, where he says, oh, we have to, Iran wouldn't stop their nuclear program, so we destroyed it. And then about 30 seconds goes by, he's talking, and then he says, well, Iran wouldn't give us their nuclear capabilities, so we had to go to war against them. And it's like, wait. You said that you destroyed their nuclear facilities a year ago, and now you said you have to go to war against them because they wouldn't give over their nuclear? What? It doesn't make any sense. But if there was a rational objective to this war, you probably wouldn't kill the religious leader of Shia Islam, which is basically 20-25% of the Islamic world, which Islam is the second largest, arguably the first largest religion in the world. It depends on how you consider someone to be a Christian. That's pretty scary. That's many millions and millions of people that now have a religious reason to create their own jihad. Let alone Israel and the CIA and the United States creating Al Qaeda and ISIS and all these terrorist groups. We know that they're all backed. The Taliban, they're all backed by Western intelligence. And what are they there for? Why did Wahhabism get invented? For the exact same reason that the rabbi said, so that you can create false dialectics that war against each other while you then move around the conflict and create and erect whatever it is that your plan is. So the other video that I wanted to share, I think I forgot to put it in. Let me go here. And this is from that same video, that same long video that Tucker did.
Do you believe the U.S. government prioritized Israel over our own troops?
It is very clear the United States is being led around the nose right now by what should be its proxy.
They're the housekeeper. We're the homeowner. Like, what is this? I don't get it. No, I'm serious. I don't understand.
I agree. I have a colleague who's in the Gulf states, and he tells me the warning he got from the State Department to get out basically said, you're on your own. And meanwhile, I hear that until 24 hours ago, the British government was evacuating their people, no questions asked. So you mean to tell me that the sole superpower is picking a fight with this missile city that is Iran, and we're not even going to provide exfiltration for our people? That's not a superpower. That's a power in decline. That's what the Chinese see, by the way. And the Chinese think their time is at hand because we are committing national suicide with this insanity.
Which is a fact. And again, why is the West committing suicide? Why are European nations committing suicide through mass immigration? Why is the United States committing suicide through the utilization of its military and creating frivolous wars? It's because of the underlying satanic spirit, the Antichrist spirit that runs through history. You can see how it's engulfed the minds and hearts of the elite of the West. The Epstein, right? No real convictions regarding Epstein. You know, Prince Andrew's going to get off scot-free because of this war. It's a total distraction. Nobody's going to go to jail for Epstein. More people have gone to jail in the United States in the last couple of years from raw milk being confiscated and put into jail, than anyone on the Epstein files. How is that possible? It's because the people who rule us are truly demonic. And this war is an implementation of this Antichrist spirit in action. In action. And the United States is literally committing suicide. But that's what sin does. Right? Sin is our own willful, complicit action into the destruction of ourselves, a willful turning away from God. Well, every Western nation has been doing that. Homosexual marriage, transgenderism, abortion. My gosh, that spirit is what's leading, just like the transgenders have a 50% suicide rate, they're led by the same Antichrist spirit, a demonic spirit of self-delusion. It's quite apparent that the United States and Israel are also led by this delusional spirit. And here is Lindsey Graham saying the obvious here that I'm putting forth is he says, this is a religious war, and we will determine the course of the Middle East for 1,000 years. Well, that seems really, really useful for the Israelis.
This is a religious war. Who wins it at the end of the day? Do the radical Islamic terrorists who want to kill all the Jews because God told them to? Who want to kill me because I'm an infidel? Who want to purify Islam, to reject moderation and make everybody a jihadist? This is a big deal. I'll deal with Section 230. So what we're facing right now is a moment of decision that will set the course of the future of the Mideast for 1,000 years.
Now, mind you, Congress just voted to not release the records on all sexual abuse done by congressmen, right? So there are all these sexual scandals, you know how they put out payments and they sign the NDAs and pay people off. Well, I don't know exactly who put it forth. I wouldn't be surprised if it was Massey or someone else, but there was a bill put forth to release all this so that the American public could see how the U.S. taxpayer money is being used to pay off, infidelity, adultery, sex scandals in Congress. It was overwhelmingly blocked. So think about this. We live in a nation where we now know for a fact that the movers and shakers of this country, in one way or another, were tangentially connected with Jeffrey Epstein, which is one of the larger sex trafficking global operations in the world. And no one's going to be indicted for it. And when it comes to exposing sexual abuse, which all these congressmen want to tout the Bible and their evangelical Christianity, that then they don't want it to actually be seen how the U.S. taxpayer money is being used to pay off sexual scandals by Congress. Our nation is absolutely degenerate. That's where, as an Orthodox Christian, you should view this almost as a providential blessing, because America needs to be reset in one way or another. Our country is evil, right? And it means, unfortunately, things are going to get tough for us. But my God, just look at the 21st century. What has the United States done that an American can be proud about? Rebuild our infrastructure? No. How about universal health care? No. Lower taxes? No. Lower inflation? No. None of it. None of it. But billions of dollars will go to Ukraine to fight Russia. Billions of dollars will go to Israel to genocide Palestinians. And now billions and billions, hundreds of billions of dollars will now go to killing the Iranians. Our nation is absolutely degenerate. We have to realize the Antichrist spirit that is running the world. Here is U.S. commanders. I mentioned this in the emergency alert that YouTube took down. U.S. commanders across more than 30 military bases told troops that the Iran war is part of God's plan and linked it to Armageddon. A commander said Trump was anointed by Jesus to light the signal fire in Iran to cause Armageddon. These are the people leading the military, guys. Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of War, this is his worldview. These people think Donald Trump was chosen by Jesus Christ to inaugurate the Great World War, which in a way, maybe he was. You know, from an Orthodox perspective, we've been waiting for this shoe to drop, the Great World War, but in a way they're kind of right, but not on the side of optimism, right? This should be pessimistic. This should be, oh no, he's advancing the agenda of Antichrist. But instead, our military command thinks that somehow Jesus has whispered in the ears of Trump, go ahead and start Armageddon. Jesus is going to come back. The Military Religious Freedom Foundation says it has received over 110 similar complaints describing the war as, quote, biblically sanctioned and a sign of the Christian end times, which it is. It's just, again, we're looking at it from the opposite direction of these people. And here, this is a lovely little video of a rabbi talking about when Messiah comes, every Jew will have 2,800 non-Jewish slaves. So again, something for all of you guys to look forward to. I would never want to leave you on a low point. So you guys can look forward to your indentured servitude for Jewish, the chosen people.
The Jews will settle the entire biblical land of Israel, from the Nile to the Euphrates. It will encompass not only Gaza, Yehuda, and Shomron, but also the entire Lebanon, parts of Turkey, Syria, Jordan, and Egypt. The Talmud in Shabbat 32b says that when Mashiach comes, every Jew will have 2,800 non-Jewish servants. This is based on a verse in Zechariah chapter 8, verse 23. The Jews will settle the entire...
Lovely. So, therefore, someone says, hey, I'll have 2,800 friends. Yeah, absolutely. So, aren't we lucky? Aren't we lucky? That is the future that the Jews have decided for us Gentiles, us non-chosen people. So let me catch up on some of the super chats, and then we'll get into the next section here. Pufferfish just sent in $2, says, call Professor Jiang on the phone right now. Next one, Nathaniel throws in $20. Thank you so much, Nathaniel. He says, do you think with the Orthodox surge in America that whatever disasters are to befall us might be lessened? I also remember hearing that Elder Ephraim founded so many monasteries to help protect and pray for America. Well, it's even for the faithful, even for a devout, faithful Orthodox Christian, things aren't going to be great, okay? The reason why Elder Ephraim, as you pointed out, built so many monasteries is to protect and preserve civilization for what was going to come for America. You see, Elder Ephraim had a vision on Mount Athos that America was going to face potential destruction. It was going to be judged by God. And for all the sins that we have committed as a nation and have exported across the world, we were going to be judged for that. And that judgment included a major geological event. Some people have speculated maybe the volcano in Yellowstone. Some have speculated a massive tsunami that may devour the coast of California. That some people have speculated that because of a quote from Elder Ephraim about the waters reaching the monastery in Arizona. We don't know exactly. I had Father Peter Hears on. We don't know exactly what that quote means, whether it actually means literal waters or baptismal waters. But in addition to the geological cataclysmic event in the United States, we're also going to face an economic downturn, which Jamie Dimon just came out of JP Morgan and said, hey, I just want to say that the economy looks very similar before the global financial collapse of 2008. Oh, wonderful. So we're on the precipice for a global recession. The U.S. dollar is in a very precarious state. And so in addition to into geological cataclysmic events and economic downturn, we're also going to have a civil war. So this is what the future of America looks like, according to the visions of the elders and the saints, is that we're not going to be facing Chinese soldiers or Russian soldiers or Iranian soldiers on the continental United States. It's not going to happen. What's going to happen to the United States is a self-destruction. It's a self-implosion, which we're already witnessing with the U.S. military right now in Iran, and even going forward with this. This is ultimately going to be an implosion. But the U.S. will be judged, and we will implode as a society, and that's what's going to make life in America so difficult. But the promise is, for those who survive, when America gets through the Great World War and this collapse, the people that inhabit the United States will be some of the most faithful Christians in the world. So that is the upside, is that we just need to get through these times. We need to pray. We need to get close to Christ. We need to get our lives in order here. And who knows where all this is going to go, but when the Great World War ends and America comes out on the other side, the population will be much smaller, and those that survived are going to be fervent, faithful Christians. And this is where it's optimistic that there is one quote that I read that I'm paraphrasing here, I'm not quoting exactly, but the faith of the Americans after this will be a sort of standard for the rest of the world. So that is the judgment. God is calling us to repentance, and we're going to feel the pain until the nation repents. And that's why the people that live on the other side of this are going to be repentful, faithful Christians. Saeed throws in 14, says, "Hello, David. I'm actually a Shia Muslim going through a spiritual transformation. I want to become Orthodox." Well, glory to God, brother. "But my mother has threatened to disown me. I don't know what to do. Please pray for me." Well, Saeed, I will say a prayer for you tonight. I don't know how old you are, and I don't know exactly your situation, so I would be remiss to give you any sort of specific advice. Obviously, it's notoriously difficult to get out of Islam and convert, but there's been multiple people probably in this chat who have converted from Islam to Orthodoxy, so you're not alone. And at some point, again, I don't know how old you are, your living situation, but you're going to have to choose Christ over family. That is why Christ says he came to divide, daughter from mother, father from son, and that you're going to have to make a choice. And ultimately, the choice is Christ. But I'm not telling you to do that now. I have no idea what your situation is, Saeed. Thank you so much for the support. But stay strong, brother. I'll say a prayer for you. But I tell you, the Holy Spirit must be working because you're moving in the right direction. HVAC Soldier throws in 10, says, "Conservative talk radio used to always tell us that Bill Clinton and Obama were the, quote, real deal when it came to Marxism. But no one says Secretary Hegseth is the, quote, real deal when it comes to Zionism." Yeah. Well, again, for even conservative talk radio, my God, Barack Obama in 2008, when he took over, he looks like a right-wing Republican compared to what we get today, right? And so then 1990s Bill Clinton, he would be right of center in the GOP today. So for them to be Marxists, and then now we actually see real Marxism around us, it's kind of hysterical. Gorilla Biscuits throws in 5 more. Thank you so much, Gorilla Biscuits. And Triacam throws in 5, says, "Hey Doc, love your videos. What happens when the third temple is built and no rapture? Do you think there will be an increase in atheism?" That is a great question. What happens to all these evangelicals when the third temple is built and there's no rapture? I would imagine some are going to seek out Christian denominations that didn't fall for this. I would imagine that it may be a catalyst for people to convert to Orthodoxy, because we don't have this ridiculous hogwash of a theology. And so therefore we don't have to deal with all these, realizing that, the Great Awakening, the first one and the second one, all these millenarians believe that the millennium was getting ready to occur in, the year 800 something. So we don't have all this stuff in Orthodoxy. And so I imagine it may cause some of these evangelical Zionists to become Catholic and Orthodox. I would imagine some of them may become atheist. I would imagine some of them actually may convert to Judaism or try to. if they're wealthy enough. If they're high profile and wealthy enough, the Jews will let them convert. But I that is a really good question. I don't know how these people are going to react. I mean, you're seeing videos online of people talking about selling all their stuff because they think the rapture is going to come. What happens when you're in such a mental delusion? What happens to these people when things don't pan out? I have no idea. What are your guys' thoughts? What do these people do when the third temple's built and the rapture doesn't happen? I don't know. It's a good question. It's a very good question. So the next thing that I want to show you guys is the timeline. And this is really important. This is the timeline of events regarding what has already occurred and been fulfilled and what is yet to be fulfilled. So let me flip over to that now. So here's the rabbi we just watched. Now I'm going to share this link. This is something you guys need to have in your browsers, okay? This is a new itinerary that was put together by the Escaton Vigil. Major shout out to the Eschaton Vigil. It's a non-for-profit. It's the enterprise that has translated all these books on eschatology that I've gone over. All these black books right here. Here, let me get rid of this so you can see it. All these books on eschatology, the translations of things into English that have never been in English before. The Eschaton Vigil is behind that. Go to the eschatonvigil.org. You can view this timeline for free. You don't have to become a member. And you can see what is going on here. So I'm going to walk through what the Eschaton Vigil is described as the itinerary of the faith. And so prophecies fulfilled today, February 28th, 2026, so the beginning of the war. The U.S. and Israel launch a major strike on Iran. Ayatollah Khamenei killed. Elder Theodore of Crete. Dear children, you'll be drinking coffee and you'll hear that the Jews have struck Persia's nuclear program. Then great events will begin. At the same time, Aragon will fall. These will be the signs you must watch for. The indicators of momentous things are underway. Elder Theodore of Crete. This is in 2016. On that Friday morning, when the first penetrating bomb falls on a nuclear facility in Iran, everything will begin to move at dizzying speeds. Elder Theodore of Crete, or Elder Joseph of Vatopedi says an attack by America and Israel against Iran is imminent. And that was in 2009. On February 28, 2026, the United States and Israel launched a joint pre-dawn assault on Iran, codenamed Operation Epic Fury, or for Israel, Roaring Lion. Multiple Iranian cities were struck, including Tehran. Iran's Supreme Leader Ayatollah Khamenei was confirmed killed along with family members, and at least 200 killed and 700 plus wounded across Iran. That was on day one. Elder Theodore of Crete, an extreme ascetic who lived in the caves of Agioforongo and the Asteriusia Mountains, prophesied these events before his death in 2016. Church leaders, including Metropolitan Hierotheos, described encountering spiritual fragrance emanating from his presence. His prophecy explicitly linked the strike on Iran's nuclear program with the fall of Erdogan as the twin triggers of the great event. Now, this is the general timeline. Multiple independent sources converge on the same events, the same geography, and the same spiritual meaning. And again, if you can go through this, but it'll just kind of take you to the next section here. The markers identified when the prophetic tradition most have been confirmed. So 15 prophecies have been fulfilled, and I want to show you what those are. In 2018, Turkey blocks the Euphrates. So the prophecy, St. Paisios, when you hear the Turks are cutting off the waters of the Euphrates, then know that we have already entered the preparation for the Great War. Turkey's GAP project, 22 dams, reduced the Euphrates flow to Iraq by 80%. Revelation 16:12, the sixth angel poured out his bowl on the great river Euphrates, and its water was dried up. Next one, and that was 2018, or the Russian-Georgian War, fulfilled in August 2008. The first war was Georgia. While Russia fights there, Ukrainians will be stirred up by the Americans. That was Elder Athanasius of Evia in 2008. 5-day war over South Ostia, first of 7 wars in the prophesied sequence. Next one, global economic crisis. The economic crisis will break out suddenly, artificially, and on a global scale, collapsing the financial system. That's Elder Joseph of Vatopedi. 2008 crash, 2020 COVID, ongoing 2024, 2026 instability. Here is UK withdrawals from the EU. Brexit completed February 1st, 2020, listed as a preparatory marker. Orthodox Easter falls on May 5th. This has been fulfilled on May 5th of 2024. In the year when Easter falls on May 5th, the events for the city will begin. Elder Ioannis Kalaidis, 2009. Gaza destroyed / flattened, fulfilled 2024 through 2025. Palestine will be a stadium and the Dead Sea will be their grave. St. Paisios the Athonite, 1994. UN, 81% of structures damaged, 123,464 destroyed, first of 3 preconditions. Next one, Israel strikes Iran. You will be drinking your coffee when you hear that Jews have struck Persia's nuclear program. Then great events will begin. We already read that one. On June 13, 2025, Operation Rising Lion, 200-plus aircraft, 100 targets. February 28, 2026, Operation Epic Fury and Roaring Lion, Khomeini killed. Second of 3 preconditions, now doubly fulfilled. Kurdish situation transformed, fulfilled March 2025. Turkey will be dissected in 3 or 4 parts. The Kurds will take their own. That's St. Paisios. The PKK ceasefire declared March 2025 after Oakland's historic call to disarm. Next one. Fulfilled December 2024. Axis of resistance collapses. Assad's rule ended December 8th, 2024. Nasrallah killed September 27th, 2024. Substantially fulfilled. The E65 road of the Domokos Lamia. The war will break out when the new road connecting Domoko and Lamia is completed. E65 unveiled April 2024, final section due to be completed mid-2026. Actively fulfilling 6 to 12 nautical mile extension. When you hear on television discussion about the extension of territorial waters from 6 to 12 miles, then war follows immediately. St. Paisios. Now, what does that have to do with? That is specifically concerning the relationship between Greece and Turkey. You see, one of the prerequisites, or one of the things that we believe is going to unfold, is that Turkey is going to become hostile and aggressive towards Greece. And when it does that, eventually, when Turkey is destroyed by Russia, Constantinople will be given back to the Greeks. Now, this will be due out of necessity because there'll be so few people that the population of Greece isn't massive, but the Greeks will actually preserve better than the Turks for sure. We believe 1/3 of the Turks will convert to Orthodoxy, 1/3 are going to be killed by the Russians, and 1/3 are going to flee back into the Middle East. So only 1/3 of the Turks will even be around, and they're going to become Orthodox, which is the historical legacy of Anatolia, right? Modern day Turkey was still at this point today was longer at being Christian than it was Muslim. So we're going to get that back eventually. That's what's believed. Fulfilled March 2024. Russia frames war as holy war. Russia is ordained by God to destroy the satanic state of Europe and America. Father Alpidios, and he's still living. World Russian People's Council declared invasion a holy war on March 27th, 2024. Now here is another prophecy. Again, these are the last ones here, and then we'll move on to the next section. Being fulfilled is trafficking exposed, fulfilling 2024 through 2026. Many ugly things will be revealed. Election fraud, child trafficking, trafficking of human organs. Anonymous Elder, June 2021. Well, What's been revealed now? The Epstein files. Not that we didn't know a lot of that stuff. Much of it has been confirmed, but we did get new stuff when the Epstein files dropped. And so we've seen now in those Epstein emails, we saw that he was behind an organ trafficking operation in Ukraine, where they were taking organs both during the Ukraine war and before, where they were selling organs on the black market, that Epstein would go to Ukraine because it was easy to sex traffic women. And so election fraud, 2020 election, all this stuff is now common knowledge. Literally, the majority of people already, 10 years ago when you said we're ruled by satanic pedophile elite, people thought you were crazy. And now everybody just kind of shakes their head in disappointment like, yeah, that's true. Fulfilling. Erdogan weakening. This is the one we have to watch out for as Orthodox Christians, guys. Serious things will happen when Erdogan falls. Opposition gained in 2024 elections, health concerns February 2026. So we have to keep watching out for what happens to Erdogan. And then we're waiting for still is digital currency and capital controls. They are bringing in digital currency because the euro will fall. Now, Elder St. Paisios used to speak about digital currencies and where this stuff is going to go. And Metropolitan Neophytos of Morphu has been talking about this forever, that one of the prerequisites for Antichrist is to have a global digital currency so that it can be totally controlled, right? So this great world war, what we're experiencing is the reset. They have to destroy the financial structure that exists with the Western world banking. The U.S. is the reserve currency. All this has to be undermined so that the new economic system, the global economic system that is centralized, can be put into place. And then next, March 2nd through 3rd, 2026, the blood moon trigger. After the red moon, it will all begin. The moon will burn crimson like a flame. That is Elder Vasilios in 1991. And so the blood moon already occurred. Now, the blood moon, ironically, again, lined up with Purim. Purim is kind of like, for secular Jews, it's basically like Halloween. They put on masks, they dress up, they do stuff like that. But Purim is a celebration of the massacring of 75,000 Persians. Now, what are the chances that the beginning of Purim aligned with Israel attacking Iran and inaugurating this war? Seems pretty symbolic, don't you think? Pretty symbolic. Raziel throws in 5, says, I hope I keep heart myself, but with faith, even calamity can be a blessing to wake up our sleeping souls. God bless you all. Well, thank you, Raziel. I do appreciate that. Scorpio throws in 10, no comment. Thank you so much, Scorpio, for the support. Really appreciate that. And welcome all the Crucible crew who just joined. Smash that like. Right now we're going over the Orthodox timeline of the eschatological events concerning the end times and how this all relates to the current war with Iran. So what you've missed is me going over the eschatological perception of both Jews, Shia Islam, and Christian Zionism. We've already kind of done all that. Now we're moving through the Orthodox perspective. When 3 things take place: first, Gaza is leveled; second, Iran's nuclear program is struck; and third, Erdogan falls. When third happens, be ready. That is Elder Gabriel of Mount Athos. So again, 2 of those have already occurred. The next big one is Erdogan. So 10-phase sequence, the prophetic timeline. Every prophetic source converges. The serious events begin when Erdogan falls. What follows is the prophesied sequence from dozens of independent Orthodox sources spanning centuries. The first one, so again, what we described are all the events leading up and how some of them are already fulfilled. Now we're looking at the things that happen afterwards. This is the Great World War. This is the Second Coming. So the first major event is the fall of Erdogan. Assassination, coup, illness, or removal triggers the Kemalists that then take power and assert dominance in Turkey. Remember, the Kemalists are pro-Western. They're pro-American. They're probably going to align with the Jews and the Israelis. They're the ones that are going to block the Bosphorus Strait, then commencing the war between Turkey and Russia. Number 2, Turkey attacks Greece. 3 islands seized, Cyprus slapped, and 40-day Greek famine. So we've already said that that has to do with St. Paisios talking about the growing aggressiveness of Turkey towards Greece and then extending the nautical miles so that they can then take over various islands. Number 3, Russia destroys Turkey. Bosphorus closed, Russia invades, Turkey gone in 1 week. That's how long it's going to take. Destruction of America, number 4. Earthquake, civil war, dollar collapse, the Great Babylon falls. World War III, 2 years. Russia to Mount Tabor, Finland gets nuked. Betrayal of China. China betrays Russia for Siberia, greatest bribe in history. Now, regarding this, I brought this up to Professor Jiang of Predictive History, and he didn't really want to answer. Now, I know he's limited on what he can say about the CCP, so take what he says about China with a grain of salt. And yes, I know everybody, his Gnostic descriptions, he's anti-Trinitarian, but the guy's an atheist. He's not even religious, so he can't be a Gnostic in a true sense. But when I asked Professor Jiang about, China, I found an article that already described how within Chinese maps, there's a territory of Siberia that is already displayed as Chinese property. Now, when you look at a global map, it describes it as Russian. When Russia in this war begins, they're going to be, again, focused on the EU, NATO over Ukraine. They're going to be focused on Turkey to the south in the Caucasus region. And what they believe to be an ally, China, is eventually going to backstab them and allow Western forces, so Israeli, American, and European forces, to do some type of flanking maneuver and take out the Russian military from behind. China is going to allow that because they want the resources of Siberia. And so they want to take Siberia for themselves. And the best way to do that is to allow Russia to fight this war and then towards the end backstab them so that you then become a more dominant figure and can take over your geopolitical ambitions. So that is the betrayal of China against Russia, which is something we expect. And then the Battle of Constantinople, 3 days, 3 nights, 18 nations, 700 million people dead. That is the end result of World War III. Massive, massive casualties. And then for the Orthodox, the Holy King, Constantinople to Greece, King John, Vatatzis crowned in Hagia Sophia. The Orthodox renewal, orthodoxy shines for 30 to 35 years. There we have an 8th ecumenical council that's going to resolve all the jurisdiction and political issues in the church. And then we believe the second coming, the final apostasy, Christ intervenes upon the arrival of the Antichrist. So the fall of Erdogan, phase 1. Here are some of the quotes. You got Metropolitan Neophytos of Morph who say, the serious things will happen when Erdogan falls. This is what contemporary saints who see tell us. Erdogan will fall, and after him, inexperienced people, pro-Westerners, communists will take power. They will ruin relations with Russia. They will betray Russia and make Russia furious. Turkey attacks Greece. We've already read that one. The Turks will seize 3 islands, Lesbos, Chios, and Rhodes. They will use deception. Their occupation will not last long, only 3 months. My children, here in Greece, you will have a savage fast, 40 days. Banks will not be open. Shops will not be open. Nothing, nothing, nothing. Anonymous elder. And the problem will start from Thrace. It will be a diplomatic episode that cannot be resolved. St. Paisios the Athonite. Revelation 3:11, behold, I come quickly. Hold that fast which thou hast, that no man take thy crown. Russia destroys Turkey. Here are more, again, quotes. St. Paisios, the Russians want to come out into the Mediterranean. God calls them to his instruments. Descending, they will obliterate the Turkish scourge within a week. St. Paisios, when the Turks close the straits, World War III will come. Georgia, this is St. Gabriel of Georgia. Georgia, my country, you will melt like a candle from the Russians, but you will be glorified from the Caucasus. Russian troops will pass on their way to Turkey. And there will occur a great earthquake in Turkey, not a stone left upon another. Cross-shaped Hagia Sophia will suffer nothing. Turkey is like a fox. When it realizes traps have been set, it will jump with all 4 feet, and thus it is caught with all 4. The destruction of America. America will be completely destroyed, and 90% of its citizens will be killed. Elder Joseph of Vatopedi. The wind will blow the dollars along the road like autumn leaves, and no one will chase them. Elder Jonah of Odessa, that's in 2012. Saint Aristocles of Moscow, O America, you will feed the whole world, and in the end, you will starve. Saint Aristocles, same saint. In the heart of North America, a gigantic volcano will erupt. This is why the volcano in Yellowstone makes sense. The eruption will damage the nearby nuclear facility, the water, the air, and the land will be poisoned. And then Elder Joseph, the Babylon the Great will be destroyed. Revelation says it clearly. Who is Babylon? America. The first Easter will be bloody. The second will be hungry. The third will be victorious. That's Schema Archimandrite Jonah of Odessa. And then World War III. Saint Philomenos, until here, up to the plain of Tabor, the Russian army will come. It will be allowed by God to go further. Finland will be destroyed by nuclear weapons. Elder Joseph the Athonite. Communications will be cut, satellites, phones, and internet. Anyone who takes part in the war will be lost. Poland will suffer greatly. Romania terribly. Bucharest will be destroyed. Now, why would Romania be pulled into this? Romania has the largest U.S. NATO base in all of Europe. It's right there on the Black Sea. It would make sense once the Great War begins that Romania is going to get hit hard because of the NATO bases. The betrayal of China. The only one thing will break the Russians, betrayal by the Chinese. Lured by control over all of Siberia, the Chinese will pull back their troops and allow Allied forces to strike from behind. The end could come through China. Siberia will fall to the Chinese, who will eventually occupy all of Siberia as far as the Urals. And this is Joel 2:30-31. And I will show wonders in the heavens and in the earth, blood and fire and pillars of smoke. The sun will be turned into darkness and the moon into blood. The battle of Constantinople. Saint Cosmos of Aetolia. In the city, so much blood will be shed that a 3-year-old bull can swim in it. The blonde nation will control the 7-hilled city for 5 or 6 months. The great Philip, with an army of 18 languages, will begin a war which has never happened. The killing will flow like a river. The sea will be darkened by blood. That is Saint Methodius of Patara. And then during the 3 days and 3 nights, 700 million dead, not women and children, but men. Only Hagia Sophia will remain intact. When NATO, the friends of Turkey, descends to save her, there the great conflict will happen. St. Paisios the Athonite. And then Hellenic Constantinople, the Holy King. That is the arrival of King John Vatatzes. We'll do a stream later on that. People will beg you to speak to them about Christ. St. Paisios the Athonite. The global Orthodox renewal. Elder Joseph said that after the purification, Orthodoxy will shine throughout the world for 30 to 35 years. St. Nihilus. After the war, a last and 8th ecumenical council will be convened to deal with heretics and separate wheat from chaff. And St. Methodius, the treasures of the earth will be opened and everyone will become rich. The earth will give its fruits 100-fold. He will rule for 35 years. And then the Antichrist and the second coming. Only after 35 years of peace and global Orthodox preaching will the final apostasy arrive. Then Christ intervenes. Elder Ephraim of Arizona, the Antichrist has not yet come. Before that, Constantinople must be given back. The Holy King will reign for 35 years. Only after this will the apostasy be complete. St. Paisios says, it will be a storm. Then Christ will give it a slap. Christ will appear at the dead end of humanity to save his creation. And so here's some of the saints and elders. And so I do recommend you guys using this. This is a great little timeline, and the Escaton Vigil is updating it as things unfold. So I'll share that link with you guys again. If you're interested in the Orthodox perspective on the transpiring of these events and how they relate to prophecies and visions from elders and saints, check that link out right there. All right. Let me catch up here. Guys, smash that like. Thank you to all the Codal crew members or the Crucible crew members for joining us today. God bless you guys. Hope you're doing well. And if you're Orthodox, blessed Lent to you. I know most of you guys probably aren't Orthodox, but may be interested in it. Joe became a Codal crew member. God bless you, brother. Thanks for joining. Gorilla Biscuit throws in 5, says, if Russia invades Turkey from the rear, would Greece help? If Russia invades Turkey from the rear, would Greece help? Greece isn't going to stop them. So one of the things that the saints mention, and we've talked about this regarding some of these prophecies, is that Russia, being the third Rome, if you believe in the third Rome theology, has a vision in which they are the sole protector of Orthodox Christians globally. And so they are not going to be attacking Greece per se. No, they're going to be attacking Turkey. Now, Greece technically is going to be on the opposite side of the lines between Russia and the West. Greece is going to be with the West, but because they're Orthodox and because of the heritage of Orthodoxy in Greece, Russia is not going to be destroying Greece. And that's why it's believed that once all this transpires in Turkey and Anatolia, the Russians will be giving it back to the Greeks, and the Greeks will retake Constantinople, and Hagia Sophia will see Orthodox liturgies again instead of being turned into a bastardized mosque, which it is right now. Kelly throws in 5, says, I'm loving this in-depth discussion. Well, thank you so much, Kelly. Appreciate you. And Nathaniel throws in 5, says, when Greece moves into Constantinople, they should play You'll Come as Lightning by Stamatis Spanodakis. Look it up if you haven't heard it. No, I've never heard of it. I'd play it, but YouTube is probably copyrighted. YouTube will strike the video. Dunkar throws in 5, says, an interesting development. Finland is lifting its ban on hosting nuclear weapons. Yeah, well, that's one of the reasons. Exactly, Dunkar. Thank you for bringing that up. You see, it's Russia that's going to end up nuking Finland because Finland is going to be a staging ground for the West to potentially send a nuke towards Russia or another country. So, yeah, one of the visions that some of the elders have had is that Finland is the one that's going to be nuked. Now, they already don't have a big population, so it's going to be a major catastrophe, especially if that nuclear weapons detonates other nuclear weapons that are being hosted there. American Justinian throws in 50, says, what do you think about the Marble King? Do you think he'll actually be the real resurrected St. John? Or do you think it'll be a man like him? The church has never canonized a man who later resurrected. It sounds like Antichrist stuff. I wouldn't say it's Antichrist stuff. I think, so for those of you who don't know about the prophecies regarding the Marble King has to do with a man named King John Vatatzes. And he was one of the kings during the Fourth Crusade, when the Catholics took Constantinople. They ousted the Orthodox, right? So they basically set up shop in Nicaea in Anatolia. And one of the kings, one of the emperors that ruled during that period was St. John Vatatzes. And he was a very given the conditions, he was a great ruler. And he basically set the stage for the reconquest of Constantinople by the Orthodox. It's believed that he is buried somewhere under Constantinople, and that he has a sword in a sheath. And according to Elder Ephraim, the sword was being pulled out slowly and slowly until the Great World War begins. And it's believed by many Greeks that St. John Vatatzes will be resurrected and rule Constantinople, the city that he was never able to rule within during the retaking of Constantinople for the 30 to 35 years. I don't know exactly what to put on that. Now, given that I am a faithful Christian, I do believe in miracles. I am not limited by rational categories. And a miracle, by definition, is non-probabilistic. So, it defies statistic probability. So is it possible? Yeah, I absolutely think so. I don't know. I would be very curious to hear the perspective of other elders in the church. But this is a central feature of much of the eschatological vision of Orthodox Christians, and it's a tradition that's been passed down by the Greeks. So I know the Escaton Vigil has been working on a book on St. John Vatatzes, so we'll do a stream in the future going over the whole theology of St. John, the Marble King, reattaining Constantinople. Austin DeTulio says, throw me a wrench, brother. Do we not have any mods in here? I'll give you a mod, Austin DeTulio, because I actually know who you are. But I had too many mods, and they started deleting or blocking people that are actually like members of the community. So I had to delete a bunch of people as mods that I wasn't sure who was doing it. So like Slowboy Whiteboard and Crispy are like my main mods. But there you go, Austin DeTulio. You now got a wrench, brother. Let me check Streamlabs real quick. Max J. Colby throws in 5, says, I got a call the other day that my friend was hit in one of the Near East rocket attacks. Sounds like he's alive. I was supposed to deploy with him. I was his best man. But because I didn't re-up, I'm not over there. I hate what they're doing. Stay strong. Well, Max, I'm sorry to hear that, brother, that one of your good pals was actually hit in some of these attacks. I'm really sorry to hear that. But it's sort of providential that you're not there, but the whole thing irritates me. I'm staying up to speed on this whole conflict, and yeah, it's incredibly irritating. It's incredibly infuriating what we're doing as a nation, and it's not beneficial for anybody in the United States. Anybody in the United States, how is this war beneficial for any of us? It is Israel's war, and that's where, guys, don't be surprised if that's going to be censored in the near future. I could totally see censorship. We're just blaming this war on Israel could get your video taken down. As I said, let me check if YouTube's even responded back to me for my video. No. So they took my video down covering the war, and I bet a Zionist flagged the video because of the way that I was describing the war. And I bet YouTube immediately took it down because it was probably claimed of anti-Semitism or something. I don't know. So, we're in a pretty precarious situation right now. Dunkar throws in 5, says 90% of the U.S. population is roughly 310 million. That's almost a third of the total 700 million casualties in World War III. Yeah. Yeah. It's pretty wild. Austin DeTulio throws in another 5, says, I appreciate it, brother. Well, thank you. Well, let's turn in and let's see what are some of the latest updates regarding the war real quick while we're here. What's the latest? So U.S. officials have just confirmed to CBS that 3 MQ-9 Reaper drones from the Air Force have been lost in the Operation Epic Fury. One tried to ditch off Iran's coast. Another looks like it got taken out in friendly fire mix-up by Qatar. And the third's crash spot is still unknown. So it looks like the Kuwaiti air base, the Ali Al Salam air base in Kuwait, took major damage. Looks like collapsed roofs, destroyed aircraft shelters, scarring across dozens of structures. Iranian strikes are getting through. Yeah, as I said, the Al-Uyed air base in Bahrain is our biggest one. That almost was destroyed today. There was 2 MiG fighters that were on their way, and the Arabs were able to take them out with F-15s. 2 minutes before reaching the base. Stranded Americans have just arrived back at JFK after being forced to evacuate Jordan on very short notice due to conflict in the Middle East. How ridiculous is it? I mean, to the point that we watched with in one of the videos with Tucker earlier, the U.S. isn't even getting its citizens out of harm's way. How pathetic the UK is, at least they got their citizens out of harm's way. The U.S. isn't even doing that. It's so pathetic. Our nation is so pathetic. Targeting the Gulf, the new strategic front line, Iran has shifted its strategy to targeting the energy sector of civilian infrastructure across the Gulf, a move analyzed by Rick Sanchez. Let's check this out.
It's been targeted the most out of the entire Gulf. It's been targeted more than Israel. And if you look at Israel, all the footage of buildings hit, ambulances rushing in the UAE, and that's why I've been very impressed, and other Gulf countries, they've actually, when it comes to their civilian infrastructure, they've managed to intercept most of the attacks. I think most Gulf countries, some of them got hit more than others. I think Kuwait got hit pretty hard. I think Bahrain got hit hard.
Yeah,
the UAE Saudi did a pretty good job intercepting it. But what's fascinating for me is Iran's strategy. Iran is no longer striking US bases. You said this is accidental, but they seem to be targeting, I think it's a smart strategy, to be honest. They're targeting the energy sector, which is kind of the last line. It's like the last step.
Remember, again, this is all relates to what I said. Iran and Israel have a vested interest in all the Arab oil nations no longer existing by the end of this conflict.
The escalation ladder is the energy sector and the Strait of Hormuz. They've hit both. They've hit this. They've closed up the straits, trying to entice Trump to escort the oil tankers, which would be music to Iran's ears because they can sit there targeting those American ships. And then they've struck UAE's Plan B, which is the Fujairah pipeline. I think they're doing others. They've shut down the exports, LNG exports of Qatar, which you were talking about. So they're hitting the civilian infrastructure. They're also trying to interrupt the economies of as many countries as possible, all the way up to Cyprus, just to be able to pressure the US from as many places as possible, by as many leaders as possible, rather than just focusing purely on Israel as they did in the 12-day war, or focusing on Israel and American bases, which is what most people expected when the war started. They said, hell with it. You killed our leader. You went all out during negotiations. We're going to do everything we can to cause as much damage as possible. And
but to be fair, that's what Arachi told me. You watched my interview with Arachi a week before the war started. And when I sat down with him in his office in Tehran, and I went through this plan, I said, okay, I know you're trying to do this, and I know you think you're going to have success. And he was very confident at the time. He said, Rick, I really think we're really close. I said, are you willing to give Trump something better than what you gave Obama? He said, yes. I said, what'd you give Obama? He said, 3.66. I said, well, you're going to have to give Obama something better than that. He said, we're going to have to give Trump something better than that. He says, we're going to give Trump. I know how he is with his ego, et cetera, and all these things. I said, good. Well, then it looks like you're going to be able to do something. He says, I think that Americans want, and hopefully we can get them to remove some sanctions at least promise that they're going to work on that. So, and then I said, okay, so what if it all falls apart? What if you are not able to negotiate? And then he said, then we're just going to hit all the Gulf states and hit every single piece of infrastructure that is in any way tied to America, that is in any of those countries, from UAE through Qatar, Saudi Arabia, et cetera. And I was surprised by his tone. And I said to him, I said, Mr. Minister, I'm taken aback by this because you're saying all this with a lot of bravado, but there's something in your eyes where I don't kind of believe you. And he smiled and said, I'm a negotiator, man. This is what I do. I'm not a warrior. I don't want a war. I don't want to fight. But if we have to fight, we'll fight, and we'll fight hard. And we've got big plans. We know exactly what we're going to do. So I remember when I walked away from that meeting, I thought, I don't think this is going to happen, because I think these guys really want to do some serious damage. And I think they could do serious damage. Based on my conversations with people inside the U.S. military who tell me that we're a little vulnerable right now. But I guess they were able to convince Trump, no, these guys have nothing. They've got like pea shooters. We'll be done with them in a matter of hours. The whole thing will be over. We'll take out the supreme leader. We'll take out all their missile installation locations. And within a couple of hours, we'll have this country controlled because their own people will take back their country with our help.
I just got this. Check this out. You know the fat Zionist Randy Fine of Florida? He and his yarmulke. Randy Fine is now demanding that Tucker Carlson be excommunicated from the Republican Party because he attacked Chabad Lubavitch, who he says are the best group of Jews out there. Now, remember, Chabad Lubavitch, bunch of like sexual assault cases, pedophilia tied with those groups. He says nobody in history has ever had anything bad to say about Chabad Lubavitch. Wrong. We have a cancer in this country. It is anti-Semitism, and Tucker Carlson represents it.
To criticize anti-Semitism when it happens on the other side. It is more difficult to address it when it happens on your own. It was not enough for Tucker Carlson to a few days ago say every Jew should have to do a DNA test to prove that they were Jewish. It was not enough for him to say that a terrorist should be able to kill us if they are under 18 years old. But yesterday, Tucker Carlson attacked perhaps the best, the most good group of Jews that are out there. A group of people who see their job to evangelize not other Jews, but Jews themselves. Chabad, a group that no one ever has anything bad to say about because they care about everyone. I wear a kippah from UF Chabad today in honor of them. We have a cancer in this country. It is anti-Semitism, and Tucker Carlson represents it. He is many things, but one thing President Trump and I agree on is he is certainly not MAGA. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I don't even know what to say. I don't even know what to say with Randy Fine. I mean, this is where we are, guys. This is where we are. And remember how I've talked about how, in a way, we're returning back to a sort of medieval period, and that it's like we're in this global, techno-global situation, and yet I was talking about how the Congress is becoming more and more ineffective, and that this was during the Maduro was captured by Trump, that he was able to do this by going around Congress and all this different stuff. You know, Rand Paul and Thomas Massey were upset with it and said this was an extension of, you know, this was beyond presidential powers and limitations to do that. And I said, it doesn't matter, because one of the problems with the Western nations is this whole democracy thing, right? I'm not in favor of Trump being king. Now, deeply politically, in an ideal world, yes, I would be in favor of an Orthodox Christian monarchy. That's not going to happen in America anytime soon. But one of the points that I mentioned, just out of pure game theory, that for America and Trump specifically to compete with other nations around the world, Putin does not have to worry about an election cycle. Xi does not have to worry about an election cycle in China. You know, all these different nations that the U.S. is dealing with, they don't have the same burden of the election cycle, so that they can actually prognosticate their goals and ambitions into the future, you know, into 50-year, 100-year plans. You know, China has a 100-year plan on the takedown of the United States. We don't have anything like that. The U.S. empire is so short-sighted, and the only people that have a long-term vision is the bureaucracy, which are global Zionists, right? It's an open secret that the Pentagon is run by Israel. Remember the guy that was working for Hegseth, that he was critical of Israel last year, and then the next day he was fired from the Pentagon? And he talked about on Tucker Carlson how, look, the Zionists control foreign policy. They control the DOD. They control the Pentagon. This is why the U.S. constantly pays for and fights Israel's wars. And regarding the ineffectiveness of Congress, it's only getting worse by people like Speaker Johnson. So we technically, we are in a war right now. Now, I guess let me phrase that. We are in a war. Technically, the U.S. has not declared war. Okay? Now, Congress's job is to declare war. That's one of the powers that Congress has. The president cannot declare war. He can want to declare war, but he has to get approval from Congress to do so. Now, we are carrying out a war on behalf of Israel, but the U.S. has never claimed that we're at war. Everybody then has been asking for Congress to either do some type of vote on war powers. Are we in war or are we not in war? And if we're not in war, then Trump needs to stop what he's doing on behalf of Netanyahu. That was the idea. Well, the Congress is so ineffective, right? It doesn't matter. Trump is carrying out a war without congressional proof. The whole constitutional system no longer exists anymore. It doesn't exist. It's not important. Okay, not that I'm saying it's a wonderful thing. It'd be nice if we all played by the same rules, but it doesn't exist. The government's fundamentally broken. And so now we're at war, and because Speaker Johnson doesn't want to upset Trump, he is refusing to hold a vote on whether we're at war or not.
Well, we just had an important series of votes on the House floor. As you know, the War Powers Resolution failed. That is the right result. We are not at war. We have no intention of being at war. The President and the Department of Defense have made this very clear. The Department of War has made it very clear. This is a limited operation. It's an operation that's limited in its scope and duration. It has a very clear mission, and that mission is nearly accomplished by all.
No, I bet, I haven't watched this video. This is my first time watching it with you guys. I guarantee you he doesn't say what the mission is, because we don't know what the objective of this war is. We first said it was the nuclear facilities, but we were told that they were destroyed last June. Then we're saying we have to come back and say, you know, they still have nuclear stuff, but no, actually it's ballistic missile capabilities. But then it moved from that to no, we just want regime change. But now it's like, according to Netanyahu in Israel, I think this was the last 2 days, they said, well, we'd be happy with just civil war in Iran. So it's almost not even regime change. It's just total chaos they want to create in Iran. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. There is no objective for this war. We have no idea why we're fighting this war. Now, we do know it's because Israel. It's because of greater Israel. It's because of the Antichrist spirit that's running this thing. But the U.S. has not declared any reason for why we're in war. And he's, it's for a limited time. Well, we were told 4 to 5 days. Now we're on day 6. We're moving on day 7. So it's gone from 4 to 5 days to a week. And according to Hegseth, he said expect 4 to 5 weeks. Now, according to other people that came out in the Trump administration, they said it could go till September. That's 4 to 5 months, which is exactly what happened with the war in Iraq, is that we were told that at most it was going to be 6 months. Turned out to be about 20 years.
All estimates, we are taking down Iran's ballistic missile capability, its stockpile, and its ability to produce more. They were doing that at a scale and a speed that was more than our regional allies could keep up with, and it was a serious and imminent threat to the United States. We don't need to relitigate all that today, but also we wanted to take down the capability of their Navy, and all of that has been very successful. So this needs to continue. It would have been a very dangerous gambit to take the Commander-in-Chief's ability away to complete this mission. It would have been a very serious misstep by Congress, and I'm grateful that resolution failed.
Now, here's a video I want to show you that, you know, Netanyahu and Israel have now made it illegal for people to share videos of the destruction. And even on CNN today, CNN said that they were watching missiles come in from Iran, and they weren't able to show people because Israel has made it where they don't want for any video of the intercepting missiles to be seen so that Iran may know where they're at, but they also don't want the destruction to be seen. This was a viral video from Bet Shemesh, Israel, just west of Jerusalem. The images show the consequences of the Iranian ballistic missile attack on March 1st. That was 4 days ago, which caused widespread destruction. Look at that. This is why Israel and Netanyahu don't want videos coming out. Because it clearly shows that Iran is making significant damage in Israel. To the Chickens throws in two, says they already broke a guy's arm over saying it. Yeah, absolutely. Why don't we watch that? Did you guys see the Marine? Now, as I show you this, let me find the video. This guy isn't exactly Christian. So it turns out he's a communist. And he went in uniform yesterday, went to Congress. Let me see if I can find a full video of it. He stands up and basically tells, what was it, a Senate hearing or a congressional hearing, that people don't want to die for Israel. Let me see if I can find a good video of it. You guys know what the guy's name was? Oh, Brian McGinnis. Okay, let me get you guys the video real quick. So here's Brian McGinnis. Let's find the full video. The one where he actually stands up during the meeting. Where's the full video at? Did they take down the video? All right, well, I'll just show you the partial video. That's what these are. So this guy, he stands up during this hearing, and he's allowed to speak, and he begins to tell everyone that Americans don't want to die for Israel, which is a fact, highlighting that this war is essentially for Israel. And he then gets pulled by the police, the Capitol Police, to be taken out. And then a woman, I wish I could find the video I saw last night, because it's filmed by a third party who was sitting there watching, and no one working for the U.S. government even acknowledges him. They don't even acknowledge that he's there. And watch, they end up breaking his hand while they're trying to get him out of the room.
Out. No one wants to fight for Israel.
His hand, his hand. Oh, his hand.
Sir. Let go of your hand. Let go of the door. Let go of the door. The senator broke his hand. A sitting U.S. senator just broke the hand of a Marine. Sir. Control your Senate. We're stuck in the door. Okay, sir. A U.S. senator just broke the hand of a Marine.
Here's the video that I think this one's a little bit better. This is you can see the full thing here.
For this war, America does not want to fight this war for Israel. Let's go. Come on, let's go. America does not want to sons and daughters the war for Israel. Your inability to name that shows your exemptness as leaders. This is wrong. And nobody wants to fight for Israel.
A reminder to all our
Commandant, please stand up as a Marine and stand up for America. Out. No one wants to fight for Israel. His hand. What's the a sitting U.S. senator? Control your senator just broke the hand of a Marine.
So that is the kind of state of America right now. Now, turns out this guy is a Green Party communist married to a Muslim woman who identifies, I think she's from Palestine, and he identifies his children as Muslims. in Palestinian. So not exactly the Christian patriot we would hope for, but he is speaking truth, no doubt. Rough Hand says, dang, man, 1.1 live viewers. You've come really far. Epic. Well, thanks, Rough Hand. Appreciate that. But, yeah, this is the kind of state of things. So ultimately, are we in World War III? Yeah. Yeah, I would say so. This is the events leading towards the World War III. I mean, are we officially in it? Not yet. But this is a precipitous domino effect that isn't going to stop anytime soon. And so from the Orthodox Christian perspective, the first domino was years ago. Metropolitan Neophytos of Morphu, he claimed that the first domino was when Russia crossed into Ukraine, because essentially that began the global conflict by the U.S. and NATO being on the opposite side of Russia, who then immediately made allies with Iran and China regarding that conflict. So he argued that we were already in the great conflict, the Great World War. But once Erdogan steps down, guys, this is the thing that we have to watch. Once Erdogan steps down, we are officially in it. So, Trad Orthodox Conquistador throws in 10, says, are there any prophecies about Spain? I don't know of anything specifically regarding Spain. I can't think of anything I've read that is specifically regarding Spain. I know that Spain is in conflict with Trump right now because Spain's not letting the U.S. use the military bases in Spain for the implementation of this war. That really pissed Trump off. And so he said a bunch of disparaging things about Spain, and Spain then came back and said disparaging things about him. So Spain is not involved in this war. Spain is also notoriously anti-Zionist, which most of Europe is. It's really America that is just replete with this Christian Zionism. It really doesn't exist in Europe to the same degree. Now, you have plenty of people that are Zionists, Tommy Robinson being one. He's really outspoken about Muslims in the UK, but will never address the NGOs that brought them in. That's another topic. But we know he gets paid by Israel. So you do have Europeans that are Zionists, but the sentiments in Europe are more anti-Zionist than they are in America. It's growing in America, no doubt. But as we saw with the approval rates of Trump, he's got a 98% approval rate right now in the Republican Party and a 53% total approval rate. So it is what it is. I hate the Antichrist throws in 5 on Streamlabs, says, I hate the Antichrist. Well, I hate the Antichrist too. Appreciate that. And To the Chickens throws in 2, says they already broke the guy's arm over, saying, yeah, they broke his hand. You can hear it snap because the other door gets shut on it and they yank him. You can hear them break his hand. Mr. Fist throws in 10, says, a commie? I suddenly don't care at all about his hand. Yeah, he's a Green Party communist. He's married to a Muslim. She wears a hijab. And his children are raised Islamic. I don't know if he is a Muslim, but he is a communist based on some of the political posts that they found him. So he's kind of a leftist anti-Zionist, really. He's a Marine leftist anti-Zionist who's either Muslim or just married to a Muslim, and his children are Muslim. PD Store throws in 5, says, all of this because Spiegelberg made a sad movie and boomers want to steal their parents' valor. I don't recall fighting Armenian wars, by the way. Yeah, exactly. Andre Lopez throws in 5, says, Little Paddocks, Patrick, Texas. Okay. So that basically does most of what I wanted to cover with you guys today. Did you guys have any specific questions or things that you want me to clarify regarding the war so far or Orthodox eschatology in general? This would be the time you guys feel free to ask me any questions you'd like right now. Oh, Dano. Dano throws in 5, no comment. Appreciate you, brother. Thank you very much. Let's see. This one says, How would 90% of the U.S. die from the Great War when you also said it wasn't going to be fought on U.S. soil? Well, you must have not been listening very closely, because I said a great geological cataclysmic event, civil war, and economic collapse is what's coming for the United States. So all of those factors are going to contribute to death and destruction in the United States. How would the U.S. lose so badly compared to Russia or China? The U.S. is judged by God. The U.S. is going to atone for the sins it's committed for the last 150 years. I guess depending on when you want to begin the degeneracy of America, that's up to you. But yeah. What role does the Vatican play in the end times? Well, the Vatican plays from the Orthodox perspective, the Vatican role in the end times has to do with Chrislam, the religion of Antichrist. So the religion of Antichrist is not a particular religion. It's not everyone's going to worship Jews or everyone's going to be Hindu or Muslim. The religion of Antichrist is just perennialism. And all these religions, so whether it be Hinduism, but Islam, we just talked about the Twelvers of Shia Islam. They believe in the Mahdi, which is like the second coming of the last Imam, the 12th Imam, the hidden Imam. Jews believe in their Messiah. Christians believe in Jesus Christ. So many of the world faiths believe in a particular salvific figure. That is who the Antichrist is going to appeal to all the world religions, to all the people of the world. That's why they're going to bow down and submit to him. The Vatican is laying the stage for the unification of world religions as all equal. That's why Vatican II, saying that Catholics worship the same God as Hindus and Muslims, even though they don't worship the Trinity and they don't declare Jesus Christ God incarnate, that is partly what the Catholic Church is putting into place. It's the religious framework for Antichrist. Now, I'm not saying that all Catholics are evil. Of course not. That'd be ridiculous. But I'm saying the Vatican itself. We already know about the Lavender Mafia. We know about Operation Gladio, how the CIA infiltrated the Vatican. We know that the Vatican and the Catholic Church is basically a globalist institution at this point. It's not preserving traditional Christianity or traditional Catholicism at that. That's why the Tradcath are so angry all the time online, because their church is being taken away from it. I just saw a thing today of a Catholic priest who has a girlfriend. Catholic priests are supposed to be celibate. Orthodox priests are typically married. You get married and then you go through seminary, or get married in seminary, and then you get ordained into the priesthood. But Catholics are supposed to be celibate. Well, there's a Catholic priest. He's not defrocked. He was posting online him going out to like a concert or dinner with his girlfriend. So, traditional Catholicism is not in a great spot. And the Vatican itself is setting the stage so that Catholics can be grafted into this one world religion. Future vid on the doctrinal warfare program. Yeah, I could do that. That's not a bad idea. Muslims believe Jesus is prophet like other Muslim prophets. Yeah. They in fact, they almost believe him to be a little bit better. Now, of course, they venerate Muhammad, but it's Jesus that's going to come back. It's Jesus that's going to judge people. And in the Quran, it says only Allah can judge. But then they also believe that Jesus will come back and he's going to judge all the non-Muslims. Well, if only Allah can judge, didn't you just admit that Jesus Christ is God? Sino Saint says, very similar to the great chastisement in traditional Catholic revelation, this will reset and restore Christendom for 30 years or so before the Great Tribulations. Yep. We're being conspired against big time in a nutshell. Absolutely. Absolutely. Are any prophecies about Australia in World War III? No, I can't think of anything regarding Australia either. Now, what I would say is expect terrorist attacks. I think all the first world nations can expect that. And they may even begin, again, it's believed that there's like 50,000 sleeper cells of Shia Islamic terrorists in the United States. So 50,000 guys can wreak absolute havoc on the United States infrastructure, technology, waterways, bridges, all types of stuff, the grid. So that is pretty scary. And that may cause the civil war. Who knows? Maybe there's a domestic terrorist attack, or maybe Israel does it. Maybe it's a false flag. And the grid goes out. Well, you can see all hell breaking loose in the United States because we're not even a cohesive country. Half of America hates the other half of America. So what do you think is going to happen when the lights go out? They're going to be at each other's throat. Then you have the civil war. But Australia, I can't think of anything about Australia that I've heard. Oh, Jim Bob's here. Shout out to Jim Bob. He says, Marty Leeds wants to debate you on the Bible being astrotheology. Oh, God. I think I have better time than Marty Leeds. Ephraim throws in 5, says, the Christian Zionists are gleefully instigating. Unfortunately, quite a few of my family members are all for it. These people are delusional. Yeah, they're totally delusional. These people are totally delusional. Oh, is Jim Bob trolling me? Okay. No, they are totally delusional. That's what I almost feel bad for the Christian Zionists, but they're also so irritating. I mean, they're literally contributing to the downfall of the country while they're also worshiping the Constitution as some divine sacrament, some document written by God. Jimbo says it's exhausting to say his name. I don't know. Marty Leeds, I'm not. I'd rather do an educational stream than, but I don't know. I'd look into it, but astrotheology is the idea that the Bible or Christianity is basically solar worship, that everything returns back to astrological symbolism, and that all the personified deities are essentially the personification of various planets. That's where they get into, Saturnalian and the Star of David having to do with Saturn worship within Judaism, and that a cube has 6 squares, so therefore the Kaaba is also a Saturnian, and if you unfold the cube, then you can get a cross, and so the Christianity, the Abrahamic faiths are really part of this astrological cult. That's what they bring up. So, we just reached the goal. Heck yeah. Shout out to Mr. Pateo, throws in 10, says, can anyone name an Orthodox Saint that was killed by U.S. Air Force missile fired from F-16? No, nothing comes to mind. I don't know where you're going with that, but if you have one, let me know. A major thank you to Dano. Dano just contributed to throwing $5 at a time. So did Austin DeTulio. Thank you guys so much for reaching the goal. I really appreciate it. So anyways, guys, smash that like. I think I'm going to get out of here. It's already been about 3 hours. So ever discuss Kabbalah? Yeah, I discuss that all the time. Any of you guys who are new to my channel, I talk about a wide variety of topics, everything from occultism to Orthodox theology to the history, global history, Eastern mysticism, current politics, geopolitics, all types of stuff. So I do streams on so many different things. But yeah. Anyways, smash that. If you're not subscribing, do subscribe. Major thank you to everyone who supported the stream today. God bless you guys. Again, stay faithful. I hope you all have a blessed Lent. Do not allow these things to distract you from your relationship with God. And deepening your faith right now is the best thing you can do for yourself, for others, and for the world, because collectively, as we repent, God gives us grace. So anyways, thank you all so much. I will see you guys in the next one. As always, until then, God bless.